Welcome to the Global Book Launch Party. Rich Bontrager with you, and I'll be your host for the next several hours, introducing you to 22 different entrepreneurs, leaders, influencers who have made a book together, and we are going to feature them and dive deeper and deeper into it. And in fact, we are so thrilled to be launching this because they have worked to share their personal stories. This is not a theoretical book. It's a very personal, deep dive book into their life as being entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers. And also throughout the show, we will be having the chance for you to purchase this amazing book right there, The Hard Work or Success. It's all about the hard knocks of life, but also succeeding in life and in business. We have different iterations of the book. So throughout the show, you're going to see this one's for Australia. Hit the QR code and order it. But we have multiple variations that you can get directly from Amazon. So please pay attention and join in wherever you're at from around the world here today. And this book is part of the ECI community. That's how this group came together. ECI has redefined the entrepreneur journey as the first of its kind global entrepreneurship community. It brings together entrepreneurs locally, nationally, and internationally for collective success by sharing wisdom and insights, upskilling one another, and offering support and referrals among authentic, committed business professionals. ECI fosters a powerful community where entrepreneurs grow together. This transformative network showcases the true power of collaboration, reshaping the future of entrepreneurship for success. And the Hard Work and Success book amplifies and showcases that and the true impact of ECI. That's what it's all about here today. So we're going to get this party started because we got a lot to get through here today, and we have people actually waiting backstage to become a part of this. And let me just check real quickly here. Oh, yeah, people are all excited. Look at this. We've already got a big Yahoo coming in. Look at that right there. So we are ready to rock and roll, and let's get it started with our first leader entrepreneur. Kira Hennihan from Ireland is with me. And Kira is one of those people that she talks about herself very openly as being true, authentic, and she's always jacked up. Kira, welcome to the book launch party. Can you hear me, Kira?
Yeah, it's coming in a little bit laggy, Rich. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep. Go. And we're going around the world, so there will be a little bit of a lag, but you have been a part of this mission to put this book together, and you help people share their stories. So tell me a little bit about the people in this group and sharing their stories through this new book.
So it's really laggy. It's probably internet on my side, Rich. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Tell me about the group and this book and how you work together to craft the whole book.
Okay. Such an incredible experience, having 22 different people come together and really dig deep, genuinely go to the depths of themselves to find a story to tell. Having that all happen, the dynamics of all of that being but then to see who they really are. And this entire experience has been incredible because each person has come in and gotten involved and got stuck in and didn't. Incredible.
Now, you began being an entrepreneur at age 6 yourself, correct?
Well, I got my teeth on it. Yeah.
You began being an Okay. So being an entrepreneur yourself, you talk about seeing people's potential. What potential do you see in this group?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're having audio problems. Apologies for that as we go around the globe with the 22 different authors here. Kira, are you able to hear me? I think it just might be a bad interconnection. We will try to get Kira back on later on, hopefully. Okay. So I'm going to switch out here right away and let her go backstage. And we are going to go, we're also still in Ireland right now. Eamon Welsh is with me right now. And Eamon, you're one of the authors, you're an entrepreneur, and you turn vision into projects. How do you help people do that?
So we turn visions into projects. So we see a lot of projects that come along from various different businesses, not just startups, as you might imagine, very well established businesses as well, that come along with a fantastic idea that requires a bit of funding or a bit of external skill sets brought in, or a bit of whatever the case may be. And we talk about this thing called the 97-3, right? 97% of projects that get funded versus 3%, or sorry, 97% that don't get funded versus the 3 that do. And the big difference between the two is the 97%, by and large, are generally not projects, right? They're ideas, they're visions, they're concepts. So the concept of transforming a vision into a project is about collaboration. This book is actually a fantastic example of what that process should look like in terms of collaboration, in terms of bringing the right people together in a team that can take a concept, take a dream, take a vision, and transform it into something that people can engage with, people can get excited about, and ultimately can be brought to the world.
So your chapter was entitled Always Remember You Have a Duty of Care to Your Fellow Man.
Correct.
Why
Yeah.
did you pick that title?
That is, and this whole process has been really, really interesting from my point of view. I went way back into my childhood to try and get the root of what makes me an entrepreneur and what has brought that out in me. And that's a very standout moment for me. I don't even know what age I was, very, very young, and it's one of my earliest memories from my father. Right, and it's something he said to me. I won't ruin the story because it's in the chapter, right? But it's a very interesting story where he nearly sent me through the front windscreen of a car.
Yes.
Right. But it resulted in him sitting beside me and saying, "Don't ever forget, Eamon, you have a duty of care to your fellow man." And that has been one of my guiding principles all the way through my life. And you'll see in the chapter as well what can happen. We all have our guiding principles, and you can see in my chapter at least what happens when we lose sight of those.
Well, and you also talk about the impact of your father in your life on your career and everything. Tell us more about your father because he was a big part of everything, right?
Yeah, so my father is, although he probably wouldn't agree with me himself, but he is an entrepreneur in the truest sense. He's a farmer. My whole family background, we've been farming in the west of Ireland since the 1800s. And in my mind, farmers are the original entrepreneurs, or as I like to call them, the agripreneurs, right?
Yep.
Because for a lot of time with farmers, it's life or death. It's problem solving and creating the business and driving the business forward is life and death for the livestock that they're managing or the crops that they're managing and all the rest of it. But my father took it he diversified during the Celtic Tiger years in Ireland and created a plant hire business from nothing when there was literally absolutely nothing in Ireland. He built a plant hire business. So that's the environment I grew up in. I grew up in, be up before the sun, be out of bed before the sun, and the work ethic that goes with it, and what some might call the hustle and the grind was just normal for us growing up.
How did that formulate you? How did that build you up when you went solo on your own as an entrepreneur? Did that those type of building blocks really help you?
Yeah, because it instilled in me this sense of some people talk about failure isn't an option, but when I think back and I look at my father, I mean, failure wasn't a thing. There was no, I mean, if a track came off a machine, if a tractor broke down, if you just had to solve the problem. There was no such thing as, oh, we'll deflect that responsibility over to someone else, or we'll do what, we'll just go home and have a cup of tea and forget about it, right? If that happened, we didn't eat. So there was no such thing as this problem cannot be solved. So I grew up and I was probably into my 20s before I actually realized that that's not how most people think, right?
Doing this book, because you all work independently, there wasn't a lot of crosstalk. You were told, go write your chapter, submit it, and they'll take care of the rest. So What was your experience doing this independently, but knowing it was going to come together? Was that a challenge? Was that easy for you?
It was challenging. It was challenging in the sense that, as I said, I went very deep back into my past and came all the way through. And I mean, some of what I've told, the stories that I told in the chapter are fractions of the real stories, because I mean, the big thing I learned is there's probably a book in every single bit of a story, in every
There you go.
paragraph, right?
Yeah.
So that was really, really interesting. But what really fascinated me was when it all came together, because there was a lot of support within the group, but in terms of the different chapters, we bounced off each other on that, but we didn't write our chapters collectively. We wrote our chapters very much on our own in a sense. But how it all came together was fascinating and it just goes to show the power of a direction, of strong leadership, and a brief, right? Because it all came together as if we had been in, as if we were all working on it together. And it's not that we were isolated, right? We did
Right.
communicate, we did talk, but we did write our own chapters, as you said, very much independently. And how that came together to create this unified book
Yes.
is mind blowing.
Well, and Kira, who was our first guest, but technical difficulties, she was the master editor of everything. She had to take all of your different works, 22 different authors, and put them together in a way that made sense for the reader. And actually, as we produce the show here today, you're going to be surprised at how much of that flows into our production here today, because there are overlapping themes, there are connected stories, and yet you guys are spread all over the world. Being a part of this group, being an entrepreneur, what's the value of being part of an international community like this?
Wow. What's the value of being a part of an international community like this? It, you feel, I've been talking about this quite a lot recently and been involved in this group. Business and entrepreneurship, it can be a very, very lonely space, but it can also be an environment where you're at risk a lot of the time. Okay, so people might try and take advantage of you, and business deals go the wrong way, and you get left out of deals, or whatever the case may be. There is nothing that I can compare this to in terms of the value that this type of a group, business group, brings, in terms of we don't cooperate, we collaborate. And what I mean by that is there's 22 people involved in this book, which means we're all collaborating. It means I've 21 people watching my back, you
Yes.
know and that's absolutely, in the world of business, in the world of entrepreneurship, that's rare, incredibly rare. So there is no price. I don't think you could put a price on having that level of support in terms of collaboration.
When the group first said, we're going to do a book together, take us back. What was your first reaction thinking, we're going to do a book on entrepreneur? It's about entrepreneurship for entrepreneurs, but we're going to write it. What was your first reaction?
Oh, my first reaction was, I'm not going to be able to do this. Right. I mean, Rich, I struggle to spell my name sometimes. Right. So the idea of me writing, and there's another guy coming up later on that will, but the yeah, it was daunting, to be honest. And I mean, I've done some stuff in my life that when I look back, I go, "What, geez, did I do that?" But the thought of writing a chapter for a book, it absolutely terrified me, right? From the skill set point of view of writing, but also the sense of, who wants to know my story, right? Who cares,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And as I started teasing that out of myself, I went, well, these are some pretty good stories, and I've fallen in love with writing. I'm doing a lot of writing on social media now, which I never did before. So it has really brought out a part of me that I never knew existed.
So, last question for you here today. When they get the book, what's the overall writing thing that you want them to get out of your chapter? Specifically, what's the essence that you want them to grab and get from that?
So the thing I want people to take from mine is have a look at the guiding principles that are laid out in my chapter, and have a look at what happened when I moved away from those, right?
Mm.
And take from it. You find your guiding principles, use some of mine if they resonate with you. You'll have several of them throughout the book, but once you've found your guiding principles, use them. We've an expression in Ireland, keep between the ditches, right? So use those guiding principles to keep your bearings, to keep you between the ditches, and don't lose sight of them, because things can go very, very wrong when you do.
Eamon from Ireland, and you're not the only one we got from Ireland here today. So thanks for taking the time and being with. Congratulations on the book launch, Sue, by the way.
Thank you very much, Rich.
Wow, here we go. Spin the dial once again. Next up is going to be Joseph, and we're going to have Joseph beam right in. And again, he's from Dublin, Ireland. They've got so many people from Ireland in this group. I think we cover a lot of ground in Ireland. So if I'm going to go find him over here, I see a smiling face backstage. Now live, Joseph, how you doing?
Hey, Rich, great to be here.
You know, I also love the Dublin accent or the Ireland accent. So I just naturally fall in love with you people.
Of course, that's what we're here for.
So you are a facial analyst, an expert in lie detector and in clear sight communication. Before we get into your chapter, what in the world is that all about?
Yeah, I've for many years now, I've worked with an ancient Chinese skill, which is literally reading people's static facial features. But I've also done a lot of study of body language. I've done a lot of work online with former FBI trainers in negotiation, body language, interrogation. So I listen to what people are saying, but I also listen for what they're not saying, what they're avoiding, and I look at what their face is telling me, whether their face is telling me the same as what their words are saying. Fascinating.
Now, how has that helped you as an entrepreneur? Does that directly overlay as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm having to negotiate. I'm having to communicate. I'm having to convince people that what I'm saying, that I'm real. I'm having to get my message across to people in the way they need to receive it. Because one of the mistakes we tend to make is we come from where we're coming from, rather than connecting with people where they're at or where they want to be. So I'm tailoring my message and helping others in terms of my training. I'm helping others to tailor their message to the people they're speaking to, or they aspire to speak to.
So your chapter is entitled "A Game of Three Halves."
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, that's bad math, but that's okay. We'll let that slide. But can you highlight what are the three halves that you wrote about?
Yeah, I must reread the chapters. It seems like a lifetime ago. Yeah, I mean, I titled it Three Halves because I just like to introduce a bit of humor to things anyway. Because I guess I was a therapist for 30 years, and I've dealt with a lot of people in places of deep pain, and some of my chapter is about deep pain.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's the key point for me in essence is that entrepreneurship can be a lonely place. But no matter what pain you might feel in the process, there's always a way through. And that's one of the blessings of this process, but also this community, that the Eamon touched on it with collaboration. And there's been so much support, not just in terms of the writing, but in terms of what it's brought up for people in the writing process, and the doubts, the memories, even in some cases.
Yeah.
And the doubts that it brings up in terms of, oh, can I do this? Where can I go from here? So there's been so much incredible support there. And that's it's probably not so much spoken about in the book, but it's one of the things to remind ourselves that the importance of community, the importance of people. We're in an age of AI and all of that, but it still comes down to people, connection, community, communication.
So it also sounds like it's almost therapeutic for you to write this out and relive some story, bring it to paper. Did it feel that way after a while?
Yeah, but it wasn't therapeutic in the sense that I wasn't processing a lot of deep pain. It was actually keeping the vision of why we're writing the book in the first place.
Yeah.
You're writing it to encourage people, to inspire people, to give people a lift when they're down, and to remind them that there's always light out there. There's always light ahead.
Now, there's a quote from your particular part of the book that I actually love. It says, if I were to sum myself up in 2 words, it would be, don't follow rules.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a rule and I want to break it. Like we're natural rebels here in Ireland anyway. But I steer clear from the sort of the violence that might be associated, but rebellious in terms of humor, winding people up, as we say here, busting your chops, I think you say in the US and Canada, and bringing humor in because humor humor is it's an essential component in life. And one of the things I love is research by the Harvard psychologist Sean Acor. He's written a book called The Happiness Advantage, but his research shows that we're actually 31% more intelligent when we're happy.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, then I'm a genius. I'm having fun all the time.
That was what I'm saying, Rich.
When you share those things in the book, well, let me rephrase it. What's your favorite part of your chapter? What's the thing that grabbed you, or maybe you had to wrestle with longer to put it out there? Well, what's your favorite part of it?
It might sound a little odd, but probably the part about where I talk about my father's death, where he died suddenly, unexpectedly, was really traumatic. But it brought up so much love for me about my father. It brought up such a depth of feeling. And my father really has been my model. He's been gone many years. In fact, his anniversary is next week, but he's been gone many years. But he is the model that I aspire to live by in terms of his integrity, his values, his commitment to, like Eamon's father, commitment to service.
That's interesting you say that, Joseph, because as I read the book, as I prepared for today, the father theme and the loss of someone close really has empowered many of you to move forward because of the memories, the stories. Did you realize how much of an impact your father did have on you throughout your rest of your life?
Yeah, and I'm always learning. Even though it's what, 37 years this year, there's always something new. There's always a sense of not in a ghostly way, but it's like I feel his influence on me, and particularly if I'm going off course, it's like yeah, you know your values, stick with it.
And values came up with another concurrent theme throughout the book as well. So what are some of your values when you are an entrepreneur leading out? What would you say are some of your core essence values?
You got to care. You got to care about the people you're dealing with. Again, the quote from Eamon's father, service to your fellow man.
Yeah.
And it's so deep, it's so profound. And it's you have to care about the people you connect with, the people you work with, even if they're not paying clients. You have to feel empathy for them, and you have to be willing to go whatever the extra mile is to be of service.
Even if they're not the paying client. So far, that's the best line so far of the day, right there. You got it, Joseph. When you've not read the book completely yet, right? You have not read, because we're just releasing it here today. In fact, as I bring this back up, this is the Canadian link for those in Canada. Grab the link at the QR code. Are you excited to read what the others in the group have written? Because you do know each other. You are hanging out virtually a lot, but how excited are you to read the other chapters?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm so privileged that I have the opportunity to read. I've read some so far, but I knew some of the people very well already. But even some of their stories are just wow. Excitement isn't the right word. It deepens my appreciation of them. It deepens their value for me as human beings, not just as entrepreneurs. And it makes me want to be of service to them also in a far, far deeper way.
As I've read this is my observation, but we're international here today, 22 different authors, different countries, but we're not that different in entrepreneurship. Have you caught that as well, that we're really not that different?
Yeah, so many of us really are coming from the same place. Again, it's care. It's always looking to bring greater clarity to what we do, to why we do it, how we do it, who we're doing it for, and the level of not just support, but the level of resonance that we're sharing within the group. And as I say, some people you know already, some people you don't know so well, but there's so many synchronicities that have occurred during the writing process, and in the group chats, in the individual chats, that it's, oh wow, yes, you get it, yeah.
In this crazy mixed up world, do you find comfort knowing that we are more alike than we are different when we do things like this? When you sit and chat or read the stories, really, we're all pretty similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm probably privileged in my background. My younger sister has Down syndrome. my older daughter is gay, my nephew is black, my partner is Chinese. So, you know,
We have the whole UN right there. There we go, right there.
yeah.
Before I let you go, what would you want the readers to get out of your story? And again, they're very personal, they're very deep. I want everyone to realize what you're reading is very painful, gut wrenching, and fun sometimes. But what do you want people to really take away from reading about Joseph?
Yeah, that there's always a light. There is always a light ahead. There's always something to draw us forward. And even when we're feeling alone, low, you know, it's looking dark, there's always a light there. And really, more than anything, it's to go within. Just let all the fluff, all the nonsense just drop away. Take a breath, find reason to smile, step forward again.
It sounds so simple, Joseph, but we all know it's not, right?
Well, that's the point, Richard, is we just convince ourselves it's not. And I've been a master of that.
There you go. Joseph, thank you for being with us here today. And again, congratulations on the launching of your book. We look forward to getting out there to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
And we continue in the wonderful country of Ireland. And Claudine is going to be coming up next. I just have to take a moment and go find where she's hanging out. There she is. I see her. She's smiling backstage. Claudine, welcome to your own book launch party. How does that feel?
Great. We can at last we can at least speak and talk openly about what we have achieved with this book, which was fantastic experience. And at long last, we can help people, which is what I do by profession.
Well, yes,
And it's
you're
lovely to meet you, Rich.
It's a pleasure to meet you. This is all the fun of doing what we get to do now through the camera lens, go around the world and meet people. And you're in England, and you're empowering businesses to operate at peak efficiency and the potential with preferred partners. Can you explain what your business is all about, what you do with people?
Sure. I partner with this fantastic discount club, FTSE 250 on the stock exchange. And Charles Pagoda, the owner, initially had a vision as a great entrepreneur to help people. So we deal with something which is not at all sexy. We deal with broadband, energy, telephone services. How can you wrap it up nicely? But that's what we do. And we do help people save not only when they join as members, but there are so many different ways to save or as we go. So it's not just when they join as members, but it is on an ongoing process. And with that, there is a second dimension, which is that of partnering with the business. Basically, so many people, and statistically, it was proven that 60% of the population doesn't like their job. Would you believe it? So we have the solution for them. That is, if they will like the idea, to become an entrepreneur and to work for themselves, but also they have the incredible opportunity to join this amazing business that is always positive, change the mindset, because we're so programmed and so conditioned. We are expecting bad news
Right.
from the radio, from the TV. Well, we attend lots of meetings all throughout the year, and also we have special events that we attend physically, and it is always good news.
So
So
let me
we
dive into your chapter. I want to make sure there's a quote in your chapter that I hope you can extrapolate and build on a little bit. It says, I started life in a dangerous environment, but I closed the circle moving into a safe one. So you started out danger, moved into safe. A lot of you did the same thing. There's a lot of other entrepreneurs in this book that found that same journey. Can you explain some of your journey from danger to safety?
Well, danger is when you move along an environment that where you were born, but also you carry on growing up, and you also become an adult, and you're still not part of it. It's like we're being born in a life walking backward. You're supposed to be taught, and in fact, you are the one who has to stand up in
Mm-hmm.
front of the dangers, because you are not put in a very nice situation, and you have to find your way, go through the middle of it, observe, and find your way, and take all the tips along the way that are going to enable you to improve in your life, so that you can move on yourself successfully, and also make a career, a positive career out of it.
Well,
So,
and you wrote about the challenges of that in your chapter because you and your mom didn't really see eye to eye. You had issues and struggles with your mother. And then you also said you decided as you got older to do it differently than your mother did it. And
oh,
that was about your desire to learn. Tell us about that desire to learn.
well, um, I felt that I w- the the people, the adults around me were the children, and I had to learn by myself and teach them how to behave, and how to know what the values were, because I believe that I was inherently born with values, and I believe also everybody knows right from wrong from the very beginning. We are born, more or less, but we do. And I was up against an incredible scenario of forks and knives, if I may say, surrounding me. And I thought, this is not right. This is not how you destroy life that you have created. So they had to learn. And this is, I think, if I look back at my life, I'm thinking, because I'm a spiritualist, what was I here for as a spiritualist? Learning. I think I did learn a huge amount of parameters, and this is what the book is about as well.
Well, yes, and you've had a lot of different jobs over the course of your life. You kind of sprinkled them all in throughout your chapter, which is really fun to see what you did. But with those different jobs, you often become an entrepreneur. Many entrepreneurs try different things and they finally lock onto that one thing. Was that part of your journey, trying things to find the one magic thing?
I see that you have had a good look at what I've wrote, Rich. But what you do not know is that my grandpapa, uh, w- on my maternal side, was an incredible man. He was born at the beginning of the 1900 times, and already he had all of the ideas of being an entrepreneur. And I would say that um, my parents also were a bit of an entrepreneur type of
Oh,
background. But what you do not know, or perhaps what you have, but perhaps you have guessed it, I don't know, is that I'm extremely independent. So I hear, I
yeah.
don't know,
I
but
kind of got that from the book, and I think that's where you and your mom clash. I think you had a little independent struggle from mother, um, but I do like how you end your chapter. You closed your chapter with saying, "Have fun." How important is it as an entrepreneur to have fun?
well, it is the essence of life. We are here to learn, we are here to create, but create beauty, and also to have fun with people. And because we are all together, we are part of the world, this is what we are supposed to do. Have a good time together, still being serious in what we need to achieve, but
Mhm.
let us have fun. Let us not anybody being in the way, whoever they are, whoever they pretend to be, and misguide you. The route is in front of us. We know exactly what we want. Let
Claudine,
us have fun with it.
that's a great way to wrap it up because we're going to have a lot of fun. We've still got a long way to go for a very fun book launch. Claudine, thanks for being a part of this, and congratulations on your portion of the book being in this amazing book. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Rich. It was a
So we're going to move on, and let me get this right now. As we travel around the world, we are going back to Ireland. No, Sweden. Sweden, excuse me. We are going back, and Katharina is going to join me. And I think you got one of the cool backgrounds so far. You have the horses, the green color, the lushness. That's a great
Yes.
place to be right now. I just want to hang out with you. Is that okay?
Yeah. You are so very welcome to come here. So I just look out of my window and there they are.
So you are helping rediscover peace and well-being with horse-guided healing and holistic health solutions. That's your business. Tell us briefly about what you do and how you do it.
Yeah. We are not riding here. We are doing a lot of normal stuff that you are doing with horses, but this is people that have never, or for a long time since, not being with a horse. So we start with checking out which horse is choosing you.
Ah. And I have heard that the horses choose you as a
Yes.
friend, as a rider, as almost a mate. The
Yeah.
horses choose you.
Yes, so I have three, and so I don't know because it depends on what state you are in and how you are today. So it depends on, and we will see what horse will come towards you. So that one we take into the stable and we start to connect with each other.
So,
And then, yeah.
so your chapter is Walk by Faith, Not by Sight, My Journey of Resilience and Purpose. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your chapter and what you wrote, because again, these are all personal stories. So share a little bit of your story.
Yeah, and if we go back with the story, I was with my father and grandfather at the zoo, and there was a horse, and I say, I have to ride that horse, and I was 5, so that's how it started, and that also started my entrepreneurial journey because I got to get money
Yeah.
to have a horse. So that's how I started my journey because that was the drive.
And speaking about drive, because again, your chapter includes resilience and purpose. How closely linked is purpose and passion, do you think?
Yeah. For me, very close. For me, very close. Yeah.
You have a quote in your chapter. I realized that opening myself to receive help and advice was the best thing I needed.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
important is that for entrepreneurs to be open to receiving advice?
That is very important because I have always said to my clients also, the one who asks for help the most will also go forward much better than the one that I have to reinvent the wheel for myself instead of just be humble and ask for help and say, I don't know how to do this. I need help. I am stuck here or whatever it is and I need help.
And asking for help is the hardest thing in the world, but as we learn, it's the best thing to do, isn't
Yes, it is a relief when you start to doing it. Then you just say, "Why haven't I done this before?"
it? So being a part of this community that you're a part of this, how great is it to have a trusted group like that to ask for help, to get it out of your fellow colleagues here today?
I can go to whoever in the group and just reach out and say, I gotta talk to you today. I need your help on this issue or whatever, and I know they will be there. It is like, you know, you have the red phone. So when you get the red phone up and you call somebody, they will be there. So it is a very special family we have got here, because we have done the journey together. Even though, as Iman said, we did it our own, we have been in different groups, but we have also shared a lot in the group, because we have a WhatsApp and there we are talking back and forth with each other. So
I'm going to tell everybody right now, the WhatsApp group is hopping with all these authors. These people are talking and chatting all the time. Let's talk about resilience for a second, because you mentioned that in your chapter. What's the secret to being resilient as an entrepreneur? Because as an entrepreneur, we go up, we go down, we have failures, successes. Resilience is so important, isn't it?
yes, and sometimes you lose focus, but then you go back and say, what is it that I love and why am I doing it? And then you rise again and go forward, because you cannot go backwards, and you cannot put yourself in the sofa and do nothing. That is not helping you anything. I have too much energy for that, so I have to do something with my energy. So yes, and I have met so many people during my life coming from war zones, and I just say I have nothing to complain of. So
As people pick up the book, because they're clicking, they're buying it right now. I can see it happening. What do you hope they get out of your chapter?
yeah, the most I see, that is the quote that you were talking about with with asking for help.
Yes.
You just be humble and just, I saw you there and you have been on the same journey as I was, and that they reach out to one of us and they can see that somebody of us 22 they can relate to. And if it's me, I will be there and see how I can help them.
So real quickly, are you thrilled today to have the book come out?
Oh yes, I have been thrilled for a long time now, since we made the last where we, now it's Kyra's job and I couldn't do anymore. So now I'm very thrilled and I'm so happy, and thank you so much, Rich, for doing all this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Congratulations on the books. And again, nice chatting with you, Katharina. As we continue to go around the world, we are now going to move on with another one of these amazing authors. And we are going to go back to jolly old England, as they say. And I just had you there for a second. Here comes Mike Deacon. And Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Rich. Thanks very much for hosting this event today.
Oh, my pleasure. Reading the book has been so much fun. There's similars with all the different authors and entrepreneurs, but there's also unique differences. And honestly, I just want to say for everybody, thank you all for being so honest and transparent. It's really amazing. And you're the director of the National Association of Commercial Finance Brokers. I'm going to say this. You sound like a boring man, but I don't think you are.
Yeah, finance is boring. I had my own brokerage business, but you probably read my chapter. And the only reason I'm a director of a national association is because I'm old, tired, and people actually think I've got some experience behind me.
Here's the best quote that I'd like to begin our conversation today. You describe yourself as an accidental soulpreneur. I think a lot of us can relate to that, but why do you say that about yourself?
Because I never intended to be one. It sort of happened. You know, when you work for a load of businesses, as I did when you read my chapter, you know, I went to work because of personal circumstances, because I was at university doing my exams, and my parents got very ill. My father collapsed with a heart attack, and my mother wasn't working, so someone had to go and pay the bills. So literally, it's the day before I was taking my exams. I dropped everything, went to work, never went back, and decided to stay in the city. I was wanting to work in finance. So that's how my journey started.
Well, and you also talk about in your chapter that you talked about having to be forced leave from a job. Then your wife sort of gets in your face a little bit and challenges you, and you have your own social enterprise business pop out of that. Tell us about that
Yeah,
experience of having gone through
that
all of
experience
that.
is,
And
yeah, well, that was very interesting because I was on holiday with my wife literally a few days before we were due to come home. I said, got a feeling I'm going to be turned round at the gate when I get back to the office, which happened. And then they invited me to see out my contract, which was fine. I'm being very careful about not spoiling too much for everyone who is going to buy it and read the book. But
Yep.
I had to think what I was going to do with my life. And, things like restrictive covenants in your contract sort of interfere with your progression in the future, and you've got to pivot. And when things happen for a reason. So my wife and her colleagues were setting up a public health consultancy business, and none of them could run one. I could. So out of a disaster, I pivoted and found a new life and learned new tricks, did more work in social spaces, helped people with health matters, and learned a completely new set of skills and understanding and empathy. And also politics, because working in public health in the UK is a minefield, trust.
so I want to go there. You've had a lot of different jobs, but it
Yep.
sounds like you always knew how to land on your feet and turn a negative into a positive. Can you explain how that works for you?
Yeah, there are three things that make you do it. One is personal resilience. Two is dependency resilience, which is basically making sure that your partner absolutely believes in you and vice versa. Because without that, you're nothing. Trust me. And the third is sheer bloody mindedness. How can I put this in the nicest possible way? It's like giving the rest of the world the middle finger and
Yep.
saying, I can do this and I will do this. And I did do this.
Now, that's a place for many entrepreneurs. And there's another author in there that did talk about the naysayers, the negative voices reflecting back of, you can't do that. You're never going to achieve that. You have to learn how to blow through those and keep going your direction, don't you?
You do. You've got to be as tough as old boots. You've got to have a thick skin, and you really do need a sense of humor to get through it, because every situation has humor. And if you can laugh at your situation, but also know how to deal with it, you'll get through it. And even in the darkest days throughout everyone's lives, not just mine, but everyone's lives, you will find a way forward. Listen, we're all on a journey. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. Enjoy it. Even if the journey's a bit rocky or the view's not very good, just enjoy the journey. And above all, you're doing it for other people as well. You're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your wife, your family, your friends, and the people that you do business with, because they're the ones that are going to be your biggest advocates.
So is that part of your entrepreneurial spirit that you have to always remember you're doing it for others? You're doing it for others. It's not about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most important sentence I have in my vocabulary is, how can I help you? Not what can you do for me or what's in it for me. It's how can I help you? It's the first question you always ask, because people then feel at ease, because you're not trying to push a suggestion or push a sell. There are so many entrepreneurs that push first when they really should be listening and actually asking the inquisitive question and then getting the answer that they hope to get, which is an open answer from the respondent.
So let's poke a little bit deeper on that. The idea of being a listener, because entrepreneurs are always usually high driven. They're going to be passionate. Sometimes shutting our mouth and listening doesn't come natural for entrepreneurs. Can you help us out with that, please?
Yeah, it's really, really simple. If you want to be successful, help people that are aspiring to be successful, because they may be far better at what they do than what you do for yourself. So you're mutually learning as well as helping. Okay. If someone's got a request for money, right, there's only three answers you're ever going to give them, which is yes, no, or maybe. Okay. If you know it's a complete lemon, it's a no. If you know you can help for sure, it's a yes. Most of the answers are a maybe. And that's the most important thing. Always be prepared to listen, because you're going to learn something every time you help somebody. Even if you know the answers already, you'll learn something different.
There's power in that, in what you just said. Being an active listener makes you a better boss, makes you a better husband, makes you a better whatever. Active listening in so many areas can help you. And as an entrepreneur, you need to know what your customers and clients want. And if you're not listening, you're not going to get it, are you?
Yeah, that's very true. And, you know, I've built through this wonderful group of people and others a network, not just in the UK, but around the world, where people come and ask me, can you help me? I can't always help them. But if I can't or won't because of different reasons, I will always try and find someone who can. And part of it is actually being selfless rather than selfish. If you're a selfless person, and by giving something completely without condition, and you get that back, maybe at a time and place in the future that you're never going to really expect, things happen. If you do good, you will get good. It's just sometimes a long wait, and there's a lot of people who are impatient who can't wait. So,
Mike, really quickly before I let you go,
yes,
what did you learn about yourself doing this book? What did you personally learn on your journey?
I learned to actually not be afraid to tell people difficult things and tell my story, and tell people that actually you don't have to be perfect. You just got to be dogged.
I love it. Mike, thanks for taking the time. Congratulations. Your book is launched. It's being sold. Have a good day.
Oh, thank you. You too, Rich. Thank you.
Continuing to travel around the world and bringing more of these amazing authors. We have 22 different authors to bring into today. Paul Reese is going to be coming up next. And if I can go find Paul backstage, where did he move to? Way down there. Paul, how you doing? Come on in.
Rich, how you doing? And thank you for the intro, man. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you with us. And again, you're part of this amazing book. And you're an owner of Paul Reese's Business Coaching. You work with people to help them scale their companies and be entrepreneurs and top leaders. Do you have a lot of fun doing that?
Oh yeah, it's something I've loved for 20 years, and something I will always love is probably my medication. I really do enjoy going to work.
The true medication. I love that. Now, your chapter is the true business money alignment, the reality of debt addiction. I read that several times. And I had to pause and say, I'm reading it right. What do you mean about debt addiction?
Well, especially these days, debt is very easy to get hold of, and it can become your crutch, like false money, almost like false profits in life. So debt addiction is something that I first inherited in my youngest childhood. And that was basically because, my mother purchased all our Christmas presents and things on hire purchase, which effectively debt then created the happiness in our life. So it was an odd situation, but not really. It's quite common also.
So let's get into your story a little bit. You were labeled dyslexic. How did that impact you?
It made sense. I was lost. I was lost and predominantly thought I was just a dumb, thick person. I was labeled as someone that was gonna unachieve, an unachiever in life. So when I finally, at the later age in life, had that label, that diagnosis, I was dyslexic, it just actually produced a recovery in me.
So here you are, dyslexia, writing a book. When you were younger, did you ever think you were going to do that?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, pen and paper was something that rarely came into my daily habit. Even in school, it was a pen brought on anxiety. So thinking that I could write in a book, well, yeah, it was that was way out of my comfort zone.
But then came along a teacher that taught you about one-on-one coaching. Tell us about the impact of that teacher.
Oh, Mr. Gwyneth Davis, yeah, typical Welsh name. An incredible angel of a teacher. This man really gave us room to think how we wanted to think. And he allowed us to be exaggerative without thinking. And that's when I really tapped into my mind for the first time ever. He was an incredible, wonderful awareness. He didn't teach, he allowed. There was a huge difference. He allowed you to be yourself in the class, and you become a self-taught person, because effectively he didn't have to deliver the work. He presented it and allowed us to learn in our own way. It was incredible.
You and I can spend an hour on that topic right there, my friend. That's absolutely amazing gold.
Yeah.
If we were able to replay that, I'd replay it over and over again, because being able to be self-taught it locks on so many different doors, doesn't it?
Yes. When you're given that space to think for yourself in a classroom environment, it gives you so much confidence and power as an individual to be able to recycle information, learn in the way that you want to learn, understand words in the way that you want to understand them, but come out with the same outcome as school wishes. It was an incredible experience, and I've always worked that way since.
Now, because of all that, it also says in your chapter, it turned my fuel of self-hate into self-success. Maximize every opportunity. Wow, what a turnaround for your life.
Oh yeah, and that's what happened with that teacher in school. He taught us how to maximize ourselves through self-learning, and you just thought so differently so quickly. And what happened was when you that maximizing emotion that you experienced, we kept that through school. And then when we left school, then Richie was just, I could see the benefits of how to maximize everything. And my wife says, it's hard living with me because everything has to reach its highest potential.
Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into your family life, because you have a line in there that you took time to look for family triggers of your past to help you move forward.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take the time to do that. Why did you do that?
There are the most fundamental reason is that we are taking our 10-year-old self to our business every day. Our 10-year-old self is running our business unless we understand that. So looking at my 10-year-old self and what he had adopted in the first 10 years of my life, and how my pocket money was playing out in my business still, made all the difference. And those, looking back, and we adopt what our parents gives us in those 10 years. So it was vital for me to look back at and really truly understand what was playing out in the grown-up part of me that was belonging to the 10-year-old.
Wow. Now, I also love, you landed your chapter perfectly after reading it. You say, I'm in the driving seat all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that for entrepreneurs?
Well, it's as long as you have a passenger seat by the side of you, being in the driving seat is important, but also making sure that you have a good support system around you, that is in the driving seat with you, is in the front seat, is in the back seat with you. It's so important. So yes, I am in my driving seat, but I have a lot of passengers with me called the ECI that are always coming on the journey with me and on days out.
Paul, this has been amazing. Again, what a chapter. People are going to want to read this, reread it. I thank you for your time and just for being a part of this amazing day here.
You're welcome, my friend. Thank you.
Wow. And I just felt like I talked to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just felt like I had a very powerful, in-depth conversation. His accent was so beautiful right there. Now we're going to get back to another. We're going to go back to Ireland again. And Paula McNichols joins us now. Paula, great to have you with us.
Hey, Rich, how are you? And
how
it's
are you
Matt
enjoying
Nicholas,
this so far?
by
You've
the
been
way.
backstage watching. How are you enjoying this?
Great, yeah, fantastic. It's so
what have you learned
interesting,
so far from your other entrepreneurs and authors? What have you learned?
Well, I think we've all had similar lessons to talk about, really, in terms of, keep pushing ahead and the resilience that entrepreneurs have to have. to, break through and to reach the levels that we want to reach, really,
Well, it's interesting. You're a law firm partner. You help law firms to double profits in less hours with less stress. My dad was a lawyer. He could have used you. What do you do exactly?
Indeed, yes. Well, I am not a lawyer. I haven't got a lawyer background. That's what makes me completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably, because you've read the chapter, I've got an engineering background. So that's all
Yes.
full of problem solving and transforming, improving. So yeah, lawyers really do need me. I realized that I've worked with all sectors. There's not another a sector that I haven't worked with. But a few years ago, when I decided to niche down, the legal sector, like you said, really does need someone like me to be able to help them to get out of working all those hours. It doesn't have to be like that. And I feel there is that acceptance within the legal sector that is the way it is. If you want to be a lawyer, you've got to work all the hours, and it doesn't actually have to be that way.
Now, you also talk about in your chapter that you're in a male-dominated industry. What were the challenges for you trying to excel, but facing that daunting thing? It's a man's world. Get out of our way.
Yeah. And I'd say that's probably the same in the legal sector a lot of the time as well. But back in the car industry as well. So very male-dominated industry to be in as an engineer. So there really wasn't many women around. So I was one of the guys. I became one of the guys, whether that was, what I should do or not. But there was still a lot of things that I was up against being a woman. Only a couple of instances I talked about in the book, but I could probably write a book in its entirety about the kind of
that would be an interesting book.
Yeah.
Did that almost fuel you more to say, watch me, I am going to do it, get out of my way?
Yeah, I am kind of like that. Yeah.
I got that from reading your chapter.
Yeah, I'm quite determined like that. Yes, quite persistent and quite forthright in what I do. No messing, no BS.
You also talk about sometimes it's easy to stay in your comfort zone. As an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to do that, can you?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'd noticed that pattern through, when I was writing the book. About being pushed out of my comfort zone to get to the next levels for myself. And as an entrepreneur, I carried on doing that too. For me to, carry on growing and expanding the business and what I do. Entrepreneurs, it's funny because they can get stuck in the comfort zone of having all these problems. They actually, it's not saying they enjoy the firefighting, but they accept it, they know it, that's the comfort zone, they're dealing with it all the time. The mere suggestion of change and being able to run your business without all that going on, sometimes they don't have the confidence that they would be able to make that transition. So they might have all these problems, but they're used to that. That's the comfort zone they're in. Don't like it, but hey, we deal with them. We've been dealing with them for years. We're just getting good at that bit. But it might not be particularly great existence that, they want for themselves. But then they do struggle to go, could I actually make this different? Could I do better? And there is a better way. And that's why I like working with the ambitious ones that know there is a better way. And they're willing for me to help them to get there,
Well, and you talk about settling, giving in, and you talk about persistence. Those two fight each other all the time, don't they?
Yeah. There's that fight bit again that Joseph mentioned earlier. We do like a bit of that, don't we? Yeah, you do. You do have to fight through it.
Yeah.
You could just settle, but you wouldn't get anywhere. Then you wouldn't get to where you wanted to be. If there is places you want to go, if you've got ambitions, then you've got to fight your way there.
So also in this chapter, you talk about the 3 C's, the system to life. But give me one of the 3 C's. Let me know what one of them is.
Well, the biggest one's communication, actually.
Well, why did you frown when you say it? Communicating, you frown when you said it.
No, it's not a frown, but like it's massive, isn't it? Communication. You know, everyone talks about that. It is the root cause of all issues within the business is communication, and probably life as well, if you really think about it.
Paula,
So
when
yeah,
you first-
communication is very important, and using that in terms of the connecting with the people. I mean, definitely in business, yeah, you have to have really good communication with your team and communication systems to habitualize that, systemize that. You know, because we hear about it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Miscommunication, breakdowns in communication. That's what causes all the problems. So
So
learning how to do that better is really essential.
So I've been watching the WhatsApp chat. You guys chat and talk and tweet all the time back and forth. How important is communication in the process of writing this book? Because you did a lot of it alone, but now you collaborated to make a book. How important was communication in doing this?
Well, it was fantastic that we had these book buddies when we first started. And my book buddy was Peter, and you'll hear from Peter in about 90 minutes time, maybe just less. And we're very similar because we're both engineers, and we both, you know, engineer to entrepreneur really is kind of what our chapter's about. So yeah, working together, you know, having that communication and collaboration was really important for us actually bringing this book out of us.
What does
Because,
this book launch? What does this book launch mean to you today?
Well, you know, I never thought I was a writer. I still don't think I'm a writer. Writing's just not it's just not my thing. So I was like, no, I'm just never going to be able to, you know, put this together. But myself and Peter, we've developed a system to make it happen because we do that. And so it wasn't actually talking to be able to get the words out rather than, you know, blank piece of paper, I've got to write something on it. It wasn't like that. It was more, we developed a system of being able to transcribe what we were talking about to be able to put that into a book. So yeah, we developed a system that would help us to be able to do that better. So yeah, of course we did.
Paula, congratulations. The people have been singing your praises, and a lot of people are going to go buy the book and read your chapter, I'm sure. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Rich.
Well, now we're going to go back, and we are going to go in Ireland once again. But I've had the privilege of getting to know this guy a little bit the last several weeks. And Aaron O'Dowd is joining me now. Aaron, great to see you. Am I coming through okay, Aaron? Can you hear me? Let's see if Aaron is a very special person in this community for many reasons. He's an entrepreneur, he's a podcaster, and he's pretty much legally blind. Aaron, how you doing? I don't know if Aaron can hear me right now. So, don't know why, difficulties here. Let's see. Everyone stand by. I just sent that. Let's see. Aaron, can you hear me at all? We were just on multiple calls early this morning, so I know he can hear me, but evidently we're having a technical difficulty. So I'm going to, let's stand by for a second. He uses voice chat and other things to help him get cues. Evidently, technical difficulties. Again, we're going from Ireland, Malta, the UK, the US, Canada. It's been an amazing journey. Let's see if he's able to get me now. I think he's just having technical difficulties. So I'll have someone from the team reach out to Aaron, and we will come back around to Aaron. I'm going to jump ahead in our schedule then. For those tracking along with the team, we're going to jump ahead, and I am going to bring in Lee Tunnyware. If Lee is backstage, I see him right now. Lee is the guy that leads this amazing group. And Lee, great to see you.
Hello, Rich. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How do you think this is going? This is your party, man. This
It's
is
going very well. We've got a couple of technical difficulties, but bear in mind we're scattered all across the globe, so it's only to be expected. We're lucky to have the virtual world, if I'm honest.
It really, really is. Now, you are the guy that leads the International High Performance Persona Development and Business Coaches. You have people through masterminds and other areas, but your passion is leveling people up, isn't it?
Yeah, bringing people to the next level, getting them past their internal shackles, and I suppose helping them communicate to the wider world so people can see their superpowers. We've got an amazing community in ECI, and obviously this is just 22 of them, or 21 if you count plus me.
Well, we have to count you. But it's interesting reading your chapter. Your chapter title was The Least Likely Entrepreneur, or The Least Likely Entrepreneur with the Most Likely the Failure.
Most
you
likely
thought,
to be a failure, yeah.
Yeah. So did you expect to fail as an entrepreneur, really?
No, I think everybody else expected me to fail. I'm very, very dyslexic. I can't even read road signs. I'm lucky nowadays with apps and that, and I can talk to machines. A bit like Aaron there. Aaron's partially sighted, so he has to use like audible cues. Yeah.
Yes.
Nowadays, that's what I use in a sense where I can read stuff and stuff like that. My reading's improved a lot, but least likely to be a failure because I left school at 8.5. We were homeschooled, and I suppose growing up in the west of Ireland, like Ireland wasn't at the time in the early sort of, I suppose, late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't much going on here for entrepreneurial success, really.
And so now you run an entire community. So your journey has been a self journey, very much overcoming dyslexia. How much was a challenge for that? Because I've talked to some people that say, it wasn't a big deal, I turned it around. Other people say it was a real hard journey. How was that for you?
I think initially it wasn't hard. I made it hard just from the way I looked at it and my perspective. Once I pulled my socks up and realised, got out of the drama and armour, let go of the karma, I realised, yeah, I can do this. I had amazing insight because of a horse, believe it or not. Like Katrina was talking earlier. Like my biggest aha moment came from a horse. Yeah, when I was about 11, and my mum would always say to me, "Oh, you're a clever boy," but I never believed it because I couldn't read nothing, and my vocabulary was very small. So, and because we left school at a young age and grew up in rural Ireland, really every day was the same. So a lot of the time in my spare time, I would spend with a horse called Merrylegs, and I taught her to walk on her back legs, roll over, give the hoof, all the stuff you teach a dog to do. And there was a load of American tourists walking past, and I had her in the field. I didn't know they were coming. I was just doing what I normally done. And they thought it was amazing. They had to walk back and get their cameras and come back. And they said, that's the cleverest horse they've ever seen. And I got this, I don't know, eureka moment where I thought, well, Merrylegs can't read or write. And everybody sees how clever she is. So logically, yeah, I don't need to read or write to be clever. So I had that sort of pivotal moment, probably a bit like Paul Rees. And then once I saw that, I got past all the drama and just got into action. I had my first business at 12. So just moved on from there.
So I do want to ask you, you developed a wide sense of awareness and an instinctual inner ear. You have a sense of hearing things, tuning into things. Explain that a little bit.
I think we all have it. I just think we've probably been taught out of it. It's a bit like going outside and feeling a breeze. Yeah, you can interpret that data instantly, whether you need a coat, whether you need an umbrella, whether you put the washing on the line or take it in. It's instinctual. And I think it's the same with people. I think what people don't realise is when they lack confidence or they're not internally aligned, integral, as in as in their thoughts, what they imagine, their emotion, their physiology is in their gut and their spirit isn't aligned, that they're not integral. And wherever they're out of place, and whether they realise it or not, other people feel that. So if you feel uncomfortable with somebody, or you're not sure if you like them, or you feel stressed in some ways, normally you're picking up what they're feeling And I think people get confused as to, they think it's their feelings rather than their empathetic, sympathetic autonomic nervous system picking it up, a bit like an animal does.
Yes.
I think because I didn't have a lot of mainstream education, I never lost it. So I think we all have it. So I don't think I'm special because of it. I think we all have it. I just think we buried it with everyday, I don't know, chit chat, let's call it.
Well, and there's another thing in your chapter that caught my attention. Persistence without good counsel is a fool's errand.
Oh, definitely.
Wow. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's all right having an idea, and it's all right going, well, it's my idea and different things like that, or it's my baby, and that's, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you're not going to validate your idea, if you're not going to stress test it, then you can't move forward with it, because you're just caught up in the trauma and drama of it, or maybe validation. You're not really looking for success. You're just looking for people to like you or validate you, which isn't success. That's just an emotional journey. Nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
But if we're not going to test it first, put it to good counsel, a bit like we were doing ECI, brainstorming, different things like that, or throw the idea around somebody and throw it to several people to stress test it, and not belittle it or tear it to pieces, where they can ask real questions in the real world. Ideas virtual, it's in your mind or in your imagination or in your being. When you take it out of you, it's no longer internal. You put it to good counsel. So if I take it this way, you can ask your friends and family, but if they've got no experience, they've got no experience. If you just want your idea validated, that's not going to give you success. So put it this way. You got a box to lift on the back of the truck. You got a bad back or a bad arm, and you're not sure whether you can lift it up. You don't ask somebody with a bad back or a bad arm to lift it on with you. You get somebody that's well able to lift it up. So when you stress test your idea, is it sustainable? So you ask somebody with a bit of common sense and business acumen who's got experience, and they either not pull it to pieces, see the gaps. They tell you the bridges, or they tell you the person they go to fill the bridges.
Yes.
So you take years down to weeks or months, and it's the quickest way. Otherwise, if we're in the trauma and drama of it, we're just looking to validate ourselves. People can be nice. Nice is a world between good and bad. It doesn't help you on the world of success. You've got to be honest. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be sincere. You've got to be genuine at the same time.
Right.
Respectful. But you have to test an idea every time in your own community of people that know.
Well, so talk about this ECI community. These amazing 22 different authors. There's others in the group. Here you are today launching this book launch. What does this mean to you personally? Because you're the captain of the ship, but what does it mean to you?
It means a lot to me, because I suppose in the ECI community, if you take the book away, how do you pull a community together? How do you get them to be real? Not saying they weren't, but how do you get other people to see them? In my opinion, it's only my opinion, everybody that knows you is walking around with a virtual avatar in the head of you. That virtual avatar has a concept of your future. So if we're into manifestation, a lot of people talk about manifestation to manifest from self.
Yep.
And that's fine, but it's a very lonely place, and the universe don't work that way. The universe is an ecosystem. How does the universe police whether you're successful or not, or whether you get the manifestation, and who does? Many people live in that yin and yang, negative or positive world, which means if you've had a really good life, Rich, somebody else has got to have the worst part of it. So when we've got this avatar installed in everybody's head, what I wanted to do in ECI is I wanted every member to see every member for who they were, and allow them to change that virtual avatar they had in their head of everybody, that opinion, that I suppose in some ways biased, that quick 30 seconds or 3 seconds assumption we draw, and we see their future or we see their character, and we can't see where they want to go.
Right.
So the reason the book, you said it to Joseph about therapy. In what I spent years like doing NLP, hypnotherapy, psychotherapy with clients in post-traumatic stress. People come back from war zones, and the entrepreneur is a very unique individual, because normally there's something in their past or something in their character that undermines them, and they can be their own worst enemy.
Yep.
By changing the future, by the change in the way other people see your future, you get quantum manifestation, which means now the universe isn't going to exclude you or police you out. It's going to include you, because all the other people have this virtual avatar. This live stream tonight showcases phenomenal people, takes them from being invisible to being visible. The author title lifts their credibility. What I wanted to do was to take members of ECI, showcase them to the world, because I'm proud of them. I know other members are proud of them. But how do I get them to pull together, and how do I get the public to realise, one, the power of ECI and the entrepreneurs on a journey on their own, but two, the entrepreneurs are the most collaborative, unified people, as long as others can see them. We can put judgment to a side. Every human being's perfect until we judge otherwise. So in ECI, all I was looking to do was elevate the people I'm proud of. Some I put through the paces. I call out the real questions because I want them to be successful, because they're more than able to.
Lee, you have a little bit of passion. I love you for it. I'm going to let you go, but we're going to give Aaron another try because of technical difficulty. So, Lee, thank you. Thank you
he's
very
a brilliant
much.
guy, Aaron. I mean, you've got to ask him about his rain, mate. Absolutely phenomenal guy. They all are. They all are.
They are. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
So I just saw Aaron beam back in once again. We're going to have Aaron come back. And Aaron, can you hear me now? Let's see if we're connecting. Let's see. Give him a moment with all the technology. Again, blind entrepreneur doing an amazing thing. He produces his own podcast show on video, just so you know. What he does is absolutely incredible. And he wrote an amazing chapter in this book, and we want to make sure we can get him to come on in. The name of his chapter, by the way, is What I See. I had a chuckle knowing Aaron and reading the title. You have to have a good laugh and enjoy Aaron. And people see him as a superhero. He's an inspiration to other people in this group. And Aaron, can you hear me now? Let's see. We had earlier problem with some of the bandwidth getting into Kira. Maybe it's an Ireland bandwidth problem. So we will, I'm going to slide him backstage again while he works on more technical difficulties. And we are going to move on to our next exciting author here. We're going to Malta this time. And Tommy is coming on in here. And I just saw you a minute there. There you go, Tommy. Come on in. You're the next contestant. How you doing today, Tommy?
Hello, Rich. How you doing? I'm in Varese today, Italy.
You are traveling all over the place. I've been trying to pin you down, man.
You what for the next couple of weeks? England and Ireland are coming up.
Is that part of fun of being a global entrepreneur? You do get to travel. You do get to go out and see places.
I do a bit. I actually see more Italy than I do England. Although it's hard to actually get me off the island. I do actually prefer to stay put and just work and drink tea by the sea.
So you work with video and media, and you want people to chase less through the power of remote client feedback. You help people with videos to enhance their brand, their name, their sales, right?
Yeah. So I help people, win over their best clients in under 2 minutes or less using remotely filmed testimonial videos, filming feedback with their clients and then turning that into, lead conversion machines.
Now, how did you fall into that? Because like others, you had some disability growing up that didn't make it easy for you, did it?
Well, I have Asperger's syndrome, and as a kid, I used to get decked at school, as they say, quite a bit, knocked around a lot. I couldn't read people. They couldn't read me, so I didn't know when they were insulting me or joking. I just, took it as they were being sociable, and I got quite isolated. So when I, ended up in my 20s and I was on my own, and I was staring at the ceiling a lot of nights, I got obsessed with trying to go to events, mainly around film, Cannes Film Festival, read what was in the eyes, the voice tone, the body language, and learn how to get people to stick around and open up. So eventually I got, good enough to the point where when I ended up doing video, that was something I used to thrive rather than just survive.
So you also were not a great speaker early on or talker. So how did that impact your dreams and aspirations?
Well, I was about 4 years old, and my parents were a little worried that I didn't say much. And they sent us to a doctor. I was observed for a few days, and the doctors came back and said the kid's fine. And not very long later, I was talking nonstop. I was just putting my foot in it, as they say all the time. So I was saying the wrong things. That was the problem, And then I had to figure out what was getting all the bad reactions and what would get the good reactions, or at least get people to stick around. And usually, it was by putting the spotlight on them and getting them to talk about themselves.
So was that like a switch that flipped on magically? All of a sudden you were talking and interacting?
No, it was slow, painful, still ongoing. You just throw yourself into it as many times as you can. I'd go to Cannes every year before the pandemic, and I'd be walking home with very sore feet at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
As the sun was rising, having talked to pretty much everybody who was, who would be willing to stick around for long enough.
So reading your chapter, you also talk about the power of networking. You love networking, don't you?
I used to go to the opening of an envelope. These days I moderate it a bit. There was somebody once who said that you do it in the early days. You'll go meet everybody.
Yes.
You'll go talk to anybody, and you'll have meetings with anybody. And once you've done that and you've built the people that you need, you kind of slim it down and focus on them. For a while you have to do that, I guess, to a point. These days, I'm kind of contract to the network, should we say, and focus more on the people that are, more in my corner, and I'm in theirs.
So recently, I just saw you on Aaron's show.
You did. I had fun.
Yeah, no, we just aired that and produced that. What can you say about Aaron particularly, since we're having technical difficulties? What can you say about one of your fellow authors, collaborators?
The best thing I can say about Aaron, and at the time I thought I'd embarrass myself doing this, but we were talking about records and CDs, and I pointed to my CD collection, which was on both sides of my walls, and I forgot, because I was pointing at them, that he was blind.
I caught that when we were doing the show.
Well, I can't say more about the man than I forget he's blind.
Yeah, yes, and that is one of the things that people do talk about. He just handles life and perseveres. Hard knocks for you, though. You talk about not enough experience in media. At one point, you were trying to grow your own career, and you were told, "You don't have enough experience, kid. Go away."
It wasn't that bad. I had an interview at the Northern Film and Television School in England. It was the best one that you could go to, and to get an interview there was ridiculous. I mean, they got about 300 applications a year. I was down to the last day, and they said later on, "We like the guy, but he's only been to film school. He's not had any industry experience." So I had to go out and get some. But I'm a slow learner, a very slow learner. So I wasn't really made for learning on the job in the fast-paced film world or TV world, as you probably jumped into.
So did you take that as a negative, or did you take that one of those challenges where I'm going to show you otherwise?
Actually, no. I probably just slinked away, with my tail between my legs to a degree, and just got on with something I could do, which was photographing actors. And because the cameras, were also used for video, you end up naturally being asked if you can film actor show reels or whatever video thing is going. That led on to, doing video testimonials and filming people's clients and filming the business owners. So it's more that you're just doing what you do to get through the day and problem solving. And what you're able to offer people is based upon the problems you previously solved.
Well, and entrepreneurs also, sometimes they'll hit that wall. They'll be told no, and they just give up. They only think there's one direction, one way in. You found there's different ways in, right?
Yeah, I because, having Asperger's, having dyslexia, but probably not the same kind as everybody else's. To this day, I still cannot type on a keyboard without looking down at it.
Yep.
So I could try to train myself until, my last breath, and it won't happen. So at some point, you just go, right, find a different problem to solve. Or, find something else to do. You don't have to define your life by the problems you can't solve.
I like that attitude. Fine, I'm just going to go find something else. real quickly here, what is success for you today with all the challenges you've gone through? Highly successful entrepreneur now, an author of a book. What is success for you?
Well, where I live, nobody really kind of waves a big flag and says, how great am I? That's maybe, back in the UK. Whereas Gozo Island, they tend to keep themselves a little bit low key. So, I tell people when they ask me what do I do, rather than talk about business entrepreneurship, and I'll just say I'm a video editor. I like to keep it quiet, and I'm happy enough being able to help the people who are going out there and helping others. I play like a backseat role in their success, and I'm quite happy with that. I facilitate other people doing great things.
Tommy, thanks for taking time to be here with you. What does this mean for you personally to author a book? A guy with dyslexia, what does it mean for you to actually have a book?
Well, my dyslexia is mild, so it's not the kind of reading. It's more like coordination and multitasking and things like that. So, to be honest, I usually just get bored of doing long-term projects. I like doing what I do because I finish it quickly. So, dragging me over the finish line to get a book done is quite an unusual ask. And had I not been nagged and pressured and reminded and cajoled, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I owe it to the Kiera and Lee to kicking my backside on it. But now it's done. It's nice to have done it because I enjoy the whole storytelling angle of it, and I've kind of taken that baton up and carried it on elsewhere.
Tommy, once again, thank you very much. And we're going to spin the dial and see where we go next here on our amazing book launch, global book launch, 22 different authors, different countries. And a guy named Sean is going to beam on in here now and join me. Sean, great to see you.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
Sean, you are coming from Ireland, and we have a great connection. This is really awesome. You're a managing director, owner of your own company, Brosnan Consulting and Brosnan Photography, delivering premium digital imagery designed to reach clients' audiences. So great follow-up to just talking to Tommy about video and clients. What's your unique area in this?
So I am a commercial photographer. I focus mostly on commercial organizations telling their story. I suppose really, I think of the adage, a picture speaks 1,000 words, but I've always believed in my own heart that actually a picture speaks 10,000 different words to 10,000 different people. So interestingly, yesterday in one of the sessions with Lee, what came to mind was actually, what's your superpower? And it's clarity. That what I provide for commercial organizations is clarity. And what I'm focusing a lot now on is time-lapse photography and AI-generated time-lapse photography, all within commercial photography.
Wow, that's a whole new area to expand into. How fun is it to be pioneering some of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, time-lapse photography has been around for 100 years, I guess. What inspires me about it is I think back to my childhood and those flip books that we used to have, the animated flip books, and you'd flick through and you'd watch the story evolve as you flick through the pages. And so I've always been fascinated, but actually only in the last few years has the technology really caught up now, I think, in many ways, that it can deal with fluctuating light and with AI technology to give us data. So if we're looking at the likes of construction sites, we can analyze and see safety scores and activity scores and heat maps and all sorts of fascinating data.
So the name of your chapter, by the way, is Say No to Sprouts. What the heck does that mean?
Well, my book buddy at the start of the project was Kira Heenahan, and we had many, many laughs over the whole book project. And we kept having this conversation about sprouts, and I absolutely detest sprouts. So I'm from New Zealand originally. I live in Ireland now 22, going on 23 years, and I wear socks at Christmas that say, bright red socks that say no to sprouts. So I suppose in a way you could almost think of it as an accidental entrepreneur, that say no to sprouts is sort of an accidental entry to the book, I suppose,
I love that. Now, when I was reading your chapter, you said, I was a big thinker, and that didn't fit the Catholic world growing up.
Absolutely.
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess not to give anything too much away from the book, but being a big thinker, I always have, always will, I guess, ask why. Well, why do things happen that way? How does it work? What's the thinking behind it? But of course, back in those days in the 80s, asking those questions in a Catholic boys' school was just a no-no. So I'd put my hand up, but it would get to the point where actually I'd put my hand up to ask the question, and the teacher would just roar and tell me to get out. So I spent more time outside the principal's office during religion class than I did actually in religion class. So, but I was like, but I have a question, like a genuine question, you know?
Well, and you go on in the chapter to talk about getting a job. You were sort of brazen. Was that your natural personality, or is that something you grew into?
No, I think, well, isn't that interesting? I think in ways we grow out of that brazenness. And I think as we are kids, we are taught to be, or not taught, we're allowed to be full of life and maybe a little brazen within limitations and to enjoy ourselves. And then as we get older and life takes over, we're kind of molded into this world where suddenly we've got to conform and behave and all of that sort of thing. So I left school at 16. So here I was 16 in many ways, thinking I was more mature, but I hadn't a clue. So I turned up at this job interview and started asking these questions. To me, I genuinely didn't think I was being brazen. Yeah. But when I look back now and realize what I was asking, I was like, wow, you were brazen.
So as you wrote this, as you relived, just like you did right there, how did that feel as you wrote the book, reliving life from a different perspective?
I found it very interesting. I think when the project started, I thought, oh, that sounds good, writing a book. I've always thought I had a book in me, you know, and I've always been a bit of a storyteller, I suppose, but I've never written anything. And I thought, oh, that shouldn't be too hard. Little did I know. But it was definitely challenging at times, going back into myself and looking back at those years, because there were times, I guess, in my life and things that happened that I've never spoken really to anyone other than my wife, I guess. There'd be no one else on the planet that I've actually spoken to them about. So that was definitely challenging. But it was also really interesting going back and just reflecting on different times, different laughs, and thinking, wow, gee, I actually did do that, and I got through that. And actually, you know, how did I do that? But I did, yeah. So it was really interesting.
Well, one of the things that I found fun about your particular chapter was, as entrepreneurs, we do often try different things, as we've talked about today. But you tried Pizza Hut. You were a manager at Pizza Hut. Been there, done that. Isn't it fun to look back and realize the journey that we've taken from Pizza Hut to where you are now?
Oh, completely. And the opportunity. And I think in life you can look at things in different ways. And we all have hard knocks. We all have challenges that we face. And you can take that on the chin and just plow through, or you can let it define you. But actually, when I look back now and I think, my God, what an opportunity that was handed to me, literally with a set of keys, 18 in 2 weeks. You'll have to read the book to find out that story. But that opportunity defined who I am in so many ways today. And I often wonder, had I not got that opportunity, where would I be and what would I be doing now, you know?
Now, you also have a methodology that you've learned, and part of that is retention is important. I don't want to give it all away, but for entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs don't even think that way. How did you get there?
I've always thought that way. I've always believed that people are the key to every success, and that's relationships, communication, connections. Everything we do revolves around people and some other things that you'll find out more in the book, I guess. But so yeah, I just think it's so important that the natural extension of that is retention, and that should really come naturally if you are really caring about people, thinking about people, and understanding where you're trying to go with them.
Sean, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Congratulations. Your book is launched, man. You're an author publicly now.
It's amazing. Thanks, Rich. It's been fantastic.
Thanks, Sean. We continue to move on and on through our book launch. Again, 22 authors from around the world. And we're going to come right to the USA, right to Maryland. I'm in Maryland. We're going to Maryland. We're going to go over and bring in a wonderful lady here, Jacqueline. And I'm going to get you to come on in right now. There you are. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Rick. Thank you.
I do have to ask you, where in Maryland are you at? Because I'm in Maryland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I live in Potomac, Maryland.
I'm just around Washington D.C., so we're
Oh,
in the neighborhood together, kind of.
I believe so. But currently, I'm in France. I'm not in Maryland.
Oh, so you have a nickname. You are known as the Queen of Problem Solving. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. Yes, because I started solving problem before I was even born. You know, um, I was born during the independence war in my native country of Cameroon
Yeah.
in the 1955 to 1960. And my parents told me the story because I was still in the womb when the war happened, and they were hiding in the forest. And my mother was pregnant with me, and she told me that during the war they have to run to move from one place to the other because they were running away from the plane that was flying over
Yeah.
them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they moved from one spot to the other. They didn't have food to eat. So every time that they move, they found pangolin on the road. So they fed with pangolin. That was their food.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, they told me that I saved their life. So
Wow.
so so I start solving problem even before I come to Earth.
So it just sort of came naturally for you, but
It comes naturally. Yes, I feel complete when I'm solving problem. That's something that it's part of my life. It's part of my DNA, I can say.
well, and it's fun to live in that natural state. It's love to be who you are and live in that, isn't it?
It is because it's easy. It's not something that I'm learning. It's something that comes to me naturally. Um, because if I'm not solving problem, I don't feel good. I don't feel well. Yes, I don't. It is and my family have trouble with that because my
Wow.
children in particular, they expect me to listen to them and just listen. But I learned over the years, especially when became a coach,
Yeah.
I learned to listen. Coaching taught me how to just listen and be there for other people because in coaching you have to I ask questions.
Well,
I don't talk. I ask questions, so I get to
well, and I
listen.
love the name of your chapter because it's unraveling self-sabotage.
Yes.
And I think you're the only author in this that talked about being an entrepreneur and self-sabotage. Can you
Yeah.
explain why that's so important to learn how to not do that?
It's very important because based on my own personal experience, because my chapter is about my own personal experience in the
Yes.
relationship. And I was having difficulty in my relationship, and I kept blaming my husband. And when I found the solution, because I have to find the solution on my own to resolve the issue that I was facing in my relationship. And it's at that time that I discovered, during the search for answer, that I
Mhm.
discovered that my relationship issue was all about me, not
Yeah.
my husband. But I kept blaming my husband all the time, and that's what we usually do in relationship. You blame your partner for everything that is happening, and I wasn't doing it deliberately to hurt him. I really believe that the problem was my husband.
Yeah.
But working on the issue, I discovered that I was the issue. I was the problem. I was
Well,
I was my own worst enemy.
right. And in your chapter, you talk about we look at the symptoms. We look at the symptoms. We don't look at the root cause.
The root cause of the issue. Yes, we don't look at the root cause, and that's what I found in my own quest of solution. I found that the real issue that I was facing came from my childhood. I have to resolve my past before I could live the present and plan the future.
So
And
you
that's
also
what I
mentioned the
did.
power of coaching. I want to make sure I get this in here. You said coaching changed everything for you, having a coach. Can you
Yes.
explain that? Because that's powerful.
Yes, coaching changed my viewpoint. It completely shifted the way that I see the things, because I'm not looking at somebody else for the answer. I discovered that I have all the answer in myself. So it is true. I discovered that I have all the answer of every issue that I face in my life. The answer is there. The only thing is to be patient and search for the right answer. And from that, ever since I discovered that, it completely changed my life. Not just change, it completely transformed my life. Because change it to me is like putting a coat down that is green and look for a coat that is red. But changing is completely transform that coat. And transforming is completely turn that coat into something different, like a dress or something. So that's exactly what coaching did to me. Because today I'm not expecting, if I come to somebody, I'm not expecting them to give me the solution.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for a second opinion.
That's perfect.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Are you enjoying this today? Have you had fun hearing from everybody else?
Very much, because being an author, it's not something that I thought I would do right away. I was thinking of it, but Lee and Sierra brought this to me, and it's such a very transformative experience for me, and I'm grateful to be part of this group of 26 20 no, we're 22 now.
Yeah, 22, but Jacqueline,
22 entrepreneur. Yes.
thank you very much, Jacqueline. Great to have you with us. And again, you also want to read her chapter. She talks a little bit about the power of self-love. You really want to get it. It's a very personal journey in her chapter, as many of these chapters are. And now we move back to Ireland once again. And this is about as Irish as you are going to get. We have Owen with us today, O'Malley.
Hi, Rich. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Owen?
Fantastic.
So you're part of this authorship group. You are the owner and CEO of TICN Limited. You desire to inspire people to be financially free. People have got to love you. How are you doing that? How are you helping people with financial freedom?
We're demystifying the stock market and breaking it down into simple steps. Most people are, they say the world is making massive progresses to help people become financially literate, but to be literate and be able to read books and stuff. But I think we're getting left behind. It's the fact that 95% of people are either dead or they're broke. So I think we've got a big financial literacy problem in the world. And so we crack that by giving people the ability to be able to be in a safe, supportive environment where they can put a little bit of money away every month into a kitty, learn how it all works, and build up some confidence.
I get admit, growing up, my parents didn't teach me anything about managing money. We were just taught, you have a bank, you have a checkbook, manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that's very true? We're just not told, even at a young age, what to do and how to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to radically transform our education system. We need to teach our kids three basic things. One, how to take care and personal responsibility for their own health. Number one, their own wealth. Number two, and their inner peace. You know, instead of thinking that their problems will be solved if they can get a $200 pair of Nike runners. All happiness happens by looking within and finding the beauty within you. So yeah, I actually go into schools and I teach 15, 16-year-olds our system. They absolutely love it because nobody is teaching them this stuff in schools.
Well, and your chapter is called Greener Than Grain.
Yes.
And you have a great quote in this, which I'm just going to read straight out. It says, with no business experience, I'm reminded of the saying, when a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with experience ends up with the money. And the person with no experience ends up with no money and plenty of experience.
Exactly.
That is so true, isn't it?
It is for sure. Yeah. We we come out of our mother's womb, know nothing. And some people sadly go through the whole life that don't learn basic financial skills and don't know the concept about money can work for you. That's the thing that they just miss, that they trade their whole life for money and nobody taps them on the shoulder and says, look, do you realize money can actually work for you?
Now, in part of your chapter, you also talk about getting in over your head. What have you learned about getting over your head?
Well, my experience, as I said in the book, is that I was approached by somebody to buy shares in a company, a privately held company, which is just a startup. And if you understand anything about business, like 95% of startup companies are out of business, within a 10-year period of time. So I was greener than green, as the book says, and I parted with a significant amount of money for me at that particular time and thought I was going to be a millionaire within a couple of years. And I realized that I was just being a sucker. But it was a great experience. It taught me how not to do investing. And I now learn from Warren Buffett, who's the best investor in the world. We take a group of people every year over to Omaha, Nebraska, and we sit down and listen to and learn from the most successful investor on the planet.
You also have a quote in there that says, I did not realize that if a business has to rely on government handouts and generous employment grants, that means it's not really a viable business. I think everyone should have that tattooed somewhere on the top of their business ledger.
Yes. Well, fair play to you, Rich. You read the book thoroughly or the chapter thoroughly. So, yes, very important distinctions.
Why are we taking the handouts the government needs? Why are we just grabbing at that versus fixing the problems of our businesses? Why are we not taking a moment and pausing?
Yeah, I think it's down to the most people that start businesses are artists with dreams and ambitions and ideas, but they don't have basic financial sense. So it needs to be taught at a school level, and that's what we've been doing actively. We've taught over 1,000 students at age 15, 16 how to be financially literate and how the concepts of money works for you.
You also say business success is easy in that you have to find a customer, sell them a product, and with a decent profit margin, rinse and repeat the process over and over again. It sounds so simple, but we're just not doing it that way, are we, Owen?
No, I mean, a lot of businesses go and raise money and burn up that money and then go and raise again. They talk about round 2, round 3, round 4, and then bang, after 10, what's 5, 6, 7 years is all gone. Instead of just starting from, if you look at old Sam Walton, a great example, the founder of Walmart, he started with one little mom and pop store. And when he died, his wealth went to his 3 kids, and they automatically became in the top 10 wealthiest people in the US. And he did a very clever thing from day one. He made sure that his employees took 6% of their salary and put it into the shares in Walmart. And we've got people today, Rich, that are leaving Walmart after 20 years, just stacking shelves, and their shares in Walmart are worth many, many millions of dollars, simply because that concept of let your money work for you as well as you work for money.
Again, Sam was a genius. When it comes to entrepreneurship and the whole financial area, what's your best your piece of advice for entrepreneurs? Because so many of us don't know. We have a business, we have a dream, but we don't know how to manage money and run the business. What's the best advice you could have?
Yeah, well, let's just capture Sam's example, because Sam, if you actually study his history, he didn't take on any debt until he bought Asda, the largest supermarket chain in the UK. He ran his company debt free. So he basically made money, used the money to buy the second store, and then made money, used that surplus to buy the third store. So it's so simple. Like, if you can't make one little business work, you've no business going on to the next business, and you should only go on to the next business with the money from the previous business. And that's Elon Musk for you. If you look at Elon Musk, he made a shit ton of money in PayPal, and then that launched Tesla, and then that launched SpaceX, and then that launched, so it's like, it's a simple thing. It's actually simple maths, as I say I wrote a book called So You Want to Be Financially Free. And I said, become financially free is just basic maths, and it's not even complicated maths. It's just subtraction and addition and division. That's all. If you can multiply, divide, add, and subtract, you can become financially free as long as you stick to the rules.
Well, Owen, fabulous. Another great chapter in this book. Absolutely wonderful. Thanks for taking the time to join us here live. We're going around the world. In fact, now we're going to come back to the United States. We're going to go to a country in itself. We call it Texas here. And Sandra D. Robinson, my dear friend, is with me. How you doing, Sandra?
I'm good. How are you? This has been fun.
This has been a blast. What have you gotten out of this so far? Because not everyone's read the book in its entirety, but what have you gotten so far?
Yeah, I haven't got to read the book in its entirety either. So I'm really looking forward to, even now, there are some people that sat here today and just gave some little hints as to what the chapters was about. I can't wait. And I know the entire experience. I have to make a point to say that I work with people in leadership, self-leadership, and the best example that I have seen of that is Lee Tunyware. To be able to do what he has done. At times, this has been like herding kittens into a paper bag. Okay. 22 entrepreneurial minded, creative minds going in different directions, good at some things, not good at other things, trying to get everybody on the same page. But we do have that support within, which is fantastic. But he really has led everybody in this feeling of just being safe and feeling supported and encouraging us to do so. And Kira, of course, encouraged us to go deeper than we ever would have gone, because that's just who she is. But that's what makes it really a different and very special book. These chapters are not dry chapters. These are chapters that will take you. Yeah, that you read a couple. You're like, oh yeah, no, this is not what people would expect.
No, these are really authentic. Some of them pull the mask way off, and it's really great to read it. For people that do not know who Sandra D. Robinson is, actress. She is also known as the charisma coach. She guides entrepreneurs to be uber confident and persuasive on stage, screen, and sales as well. And the title of her book, I didn't really get a title out of this, but Sandra, you really did go deep in your own personal journey about a child of age 13. Yeah. You thought about the pain of being bullied, the impact of hurtful words, and even as an adult now, you're an actress. You've done so much. You've said in the book, it still lingers.
Yeah, I think, overall, because, Lee gave good advice, and so did Kira, when they were saying, how, to think of how to write your chapter. Who is it that you feel you are most here to help? And a lot of times that whole phrase, your mess is the message, right? So the toughest thing that I had to go through, and the reason that I have become known as the charisma coach, and I teach confidence and talk about charisma quotient and all of that, is really people have that high quotient of charisma and a magnetic factor when they are being the most authentic, when they own everything that they are. And in order to do that, I think a lot of us are held up by stuff that was given to us that doesn't belong to us when we were young, whether it was being bullied, or whether it was having a parent that didn't want you, then told you that. And, there were so many things that I decided to include in the chapter that even as I was writing it, I'm going, oh, I don't know if this is too deep. I don't know if I should do this. But in the end, I think I just want people to realize that quantum leaps can happen. But I think we have to shed the light ourselves on what is really holding us back. And when we do that, and we surround ourselves with great people like the folks that are, in this book, this is a perfect example. We can reach those levels of where we want to go so much faster. That's like that quantum leap. It can just happen.
Well, and you also write in your chapter, I gave power away to the words that never belonged to me in the first place. Yeah. We often do that.
Oh, I did it.
We hear the no's more than the yeses, don't we?
Yeah. And isn't it ironic that I ended up, my first career from age 11 was an actress. Okay, just for those that don't know the business, my booking rate was really high. I still failed at 8 out of 10 auditions. I did not book the vast majority of my auditions at all. And sometimes there would just be silence, where you'd like walk out going, yeah, I nailed that. And you're on your way home going, did I nail that? 2 weeks later, like, guess I didn't nail that. So it definitely can set that expectation of failure and wondering, do I deserve to fail? Do I deserve to succeed? So it's a brutal business for me to have entered with the mindset that I had at the time. So it was sort of torturous, but at the same time, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I experienced it.
You also said, I believe there was something way deep inside that fueled my success. It was evident in those moments that I found strength, sometimes for mere seconds, that changed the trajectory of my life to a path more aligned with who I was born to become. I believe this force is something every human has. So often we unknowingly deny it, and success is only in our mind. Wow. Tell us about the inner journey to know that truth.
Looking back, and this again, thanks to Lee, because Lee was pressing us. There's a formula that you used for your success, a formula that you used to get over the stuff that is now allowing you to express yourself. And I went, no, I don't have a formula. I don't have a formula. And a few of us sat there and wrestled like, no, I don't. It's not like the blueprint that I give to clients when I'm helping them to get on camera. It's what did I do? And a good part of that, I think the thing that I can share today is literally what you read there, the bravery that was just seconds. It takes just a few seconds to be given an opportunity and say, yes. And you figure it out later. My first speaking engagement, I said, yes, I can do that. I can speak to all these people. Yes, I have a 90-minute keynote. Yes, I can sell people into a 3-day retreat or whatever. I didn't have any of that.
So you didn't officially have a title of your chapel, but what I got out of it was soul power. You went back into the soul, the strength, and I think from reading it, you want to encourage entrepreneurs to go find that for themselves.
Yeah, that means to be quiet. So the other part of my business that is nature-based, I teach self-leadership in a nature-based environment.
Yeah.
And that is working with horses. You had Katerina on earlier. So another fellow horse person. Isn't she fun? So there's something to be said about really just taking the time away from the rush and the craziness, whether you're in a job and you're building something on the side, or whether you're in your business completely. That rush can seem like it's constant. And then you get up, you rinse, repeat, do the same day over again. Really think that it's important to have those quiet moments where you can just kind of sit and say, I say, God, where do you want me? Where do you want me? And wait for what comes. Because then when somebody says, hey, I have this opportunity, you have those few seconds that you can change their trajectory by saying yes or saying no, but you'll know. There'll be an inner knowing, that soul power that you mentioned. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's that instant download that says yes or no.
Sandra D. Robinson from the big state of Texas. Thanks for being with us today. This has been a pleasure. Go pick up the book. And again, we're going to have her go back out of the room right now. Aaron is back again. I'm going to give Aaron another try here. So Cameron, stand by. You're on the hot seat, but we're going to see how those technical difficulties are working. Aaron, can you hear me now, my friend?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, damn technology and blindness. Like, come on, I made a very technical issue. Don't plug your microphone into your output instead of your input. Duh,
There you go. Again, we've been working to get you back on. Everyone's been really anticipating you be here. Aaron is a champion of life, making the impossible become possible. I just love saying that and knowing you are that. What makes you that way?
I kind of hinted I have a visual impairment, and life throws me a challenge, as you probably experienced on this live here. I didn't have the mic set up. I could have sulked and kicked and screamed, but no, I'm turned back up here, and that's been a chapter of my life where life gives me a challenge, I figure out how to do it, and presto, the impossible becomes possible.
Well, just like today, you've had a couple challenges and you haven't stopped. You keep beaming in, beaming out, you're back again.
Yeah, that's it.
In your title, your chapter is What I See.
Mhm.
Now, you're mostly blind, dude. Why are you writing a chapter about what I see?
You know, I see a world that people don't understand, which I call the invisible world, but it's a different world. And, you know, I hear, I feel, I taste, I smell, I have this vibrational sense, and that's how I see the world.
Interesting. The vibrational sense.
Yes.
Do you think entrepreneurs need to learn a little bit more about the vibrational sense, the unseen things to help their businesses and lives?
I think they do, Rich. I think, you know, we walk in this world blind in some way or somehow. What we don't know is what we don't know.
Wow. How would you describe the way you see? Because again, you got a podcast. You just wrote in a book, man. How do you see? How do you sense? What's that vibration like for you?
If anyone's gone surfing and they see this huge wave come in of energy, that's how I feel. This I see this, I sense this huge wave, and it's like my whole century is like, oh man, this is awesome. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be awesome, and it's hard to differentiate at times. But I see the world in vibration, energy, and my sense is just like, what we're gonna do here? Like you're gonna sit down and have a meal.
So you also have been in sports competitions and boats. Can you explain that? Because people were blown away that you're doing that.
Yeah, I got a letter from the organization Ireland for the Blind saying, hey, there's a sport called rowing in 2007, and I started getting into it. And I moved from club to international level, and I went from single, double, quad, every boat you can think of. I was that one half quarterback who could play 3 different positions on the field.
So how did you overcome that obstacle? I mean, rowing, getting in the water, getting in and out of the boat. How did you conquer that?
Good coaches, Rich. You know, a good coach will teach you everything to know and able to adapt to your needs. And I've had some amazing coaches throughout my 12 years of rowing, and then my 3 to 4 years in triathlon.
Wow. Now, you also have been called a superhero to other people that you're in this mastermind group, you're in this author group with. People see you as a hero. What does that mean to you when you hear them sing your praises like that?
Rich, it took me a long time, and probably in this last year it was hard to understand why am I here. I show up who I am and I breathe so naturally. But yeah, people say, Aaron, you're invincible, you're incredible, you're amazing, and the list goes on and on. And to be honest, my soul and everyone's soul in these groups and in the world, we all dance together. So they see the brilliance of my soul, and I see the brilliance of their soul, and that's why I call it the superhero.
Well, you may not be able to see it, my friend, but Sandy Hart just put in the chat, yes, Buzz Lightyear. you are an action figure and an author. What inspires you? Because you have this compelling thing you talk about. I want to be a champion. I want to succeed. I want to do. Where does that come from? What drives you?
A fire in my belly to make the impossible become possible, to enjoy the challenge, to hop in the Ferrari and see how fast I can hit and enjoy the ride.
I would love to see you in a Ferrari driving down the road, man. That would be the coolest thing in the world. For those that have, and others in the book have talked about disabilities, talked about issues, family struggles, but specifically, what would you say to an entrepreneur that has insurmountable odds against them? I mean, I've lived with a lifelong stutter, and here I am, a professional broadcaster interviewing around the world. What would you say to people that face that but have that drive inside of them?
First of all, find the individual or a person who can keep you authentically accountable. Find the community to be able to communicate and see the brilliance as you are, because we're all here on this planet we call Earth as a superstar and a superhero, but we may not see it. So sometimes we need a Lee Tunnyware or a Joseph Maguire, whoever, to knuckle us and beat the crap out of us to show us how brilliant we are.
Aaron, thanks for sticking with us today. I really appreciate it. The chat box is blowing up. People love you, and it's just great. And by the way, he has a wonderful podcast. It's all about storytelling, but it's about people's real life stories like we're doing here today. So, Aaron, keep doing what you're doing, man. We love you.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Aaron O'Dowd, again, that was from Ireland as we go around the world. Now we're going to get back on track, coming back to Maryland once again. And it's funny because we got people in Maryland. I live in Maryland, but I don't know these people yet. So, Cameron, come on in and tell me where you're at.
I live in Northeast Maryland, about 10 miles from the Delaware border.
Wonderful. So, you've been sitting back, and thank you, by the way, for sliding a little time here for
It's
Aaron.
all right. Aaron's one of my heroes too. So,
what have you been getting out of all this today? As yes, it's your book. You guys have worked hard for this, but what are you getting out of this?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a professional writer. I'm an artist.
Right.
But everything I do is a narrative, and so maybe that's part of it. I believe there's enough space for everyone to succeed. And I want to encourage people to strive for that success. And so if sharing personal, authentic, sensitive stories shows someone else that, like, oh, you too? And, you know, when you read this book, you're not just going to go to one chapter. Oh, you too? You're going to go to the next chapter. And you as well?
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute. Is it everybody going through these kinds of things?
Right.
And that was really the most valuable message that I gained from the book and working with these wonderful entrepreneurs, book buddy, writing partners.
Yeah.
It was that realization, because entrepreneurship can be very isolated. And so by coming together and realizing, suffering is universal, but also everyone is more remarkable than they give themselves credit for.
Yes, absolutely true. The more you read the book, the more you'll realize that, because of the transparency and the vulnerability that comes out of the book. Now, you are known as the gentle artist.
The gentleman artist, yes.
Yeah. So the paintbrush is your main tool as an entrepreneur. Tell us about that a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, what is a paintbrush? On one hand, it's a bundle of hair fastened to the end of a stick, about the most primitive tool you can imagine. On the other hand, it is literally a magic wand, because with it, the artist can create visions that transport you to other worlds, that change your life. And the most impactful experience, the earliest, most impactful experience I had in my life was visiting the Sistine Chapel at 7 years old.
Wow.
And it was truly magical. It was in that moment my fate was sealed. I was in that space, surrounded by, adults. Everyone's bigger than me at that point. And this was before the restoration, so it was still all smoky and dark and mysterious from centuries of candle soot. And the restored Sistine Chapel is marvelous and wonderful, but I still feel like we lost something when it was cleaned up.
Yes.
But I stood in that space. I didn't understand a lot of what I was looking at. Because of the darkness, it was difficult to see a lot of what I was looking at. But there was a feeling, a vibe. This was a special place, and I just wanted to stay there. I looked at that and I said, I want to do whatever this is. I want to create spaces that create these experiences.
Now, you also, in your chapter, you are not as good as you think you are. You tell the story about the agent that told you, quote, "You are not as good as you think you are, but I believe in how good you're going to be." The power of belief. How important is that?
It's incredibly important. Self-belief is incredibly important, but the encouragement of others can be so precious and valuable. So, not to give too much away from the chapter, but
yeah,
that is one of the most useful things anybody has ever said to me. It's a little bit like those jokes that start out with, tell me something that will make me happy and sad at the same time.
Right.
You know, it was a little bit of that kind of moment. But it was also functional. See, as a visionary, I can leap way ahead in my mind to what a finished painting will look like, what a finished sculpture will look like, what my life will look like when I've, succeeded or whatever that is. And I can see it as clearly as if it's now. And it can become difficult for me anyway to see the space in between.
As a visionary myself, I understand what you're talking about. We see down the tunnel. It's
Yeah.
stuff in between we often miss.
Right. And so maybe in that moment, I needed to be taken down a peg. Maybe I wasn't as far along that journey as I thought I was. But at the very same time, he said, I believe in how good you are going to be. And remember the fact he was already my agent. So he had already, attached himself to my success in a meaningful way. He'd invested himself in my success in a meaningful way. So the combination of those messages is what made it one of the most useful things
You
that
also
anybody's ever
talk,
said to me.
you also talk briefly in this book, and we're not going to give away your chapter, but reframing the meaning of failure from failure to feedback.
Yes.
So many people get hit by failure and it crushes them, taking them out of the game. What a great concept.
Yes. Okay, for starters, if you failed at something, it means you tried something you're not very good at yet. It means you tried something. That deserves congratulations rather than condemnation. Failure. And so what you did, you said, I want this, and I'm going to follow this plan to get it. You made the best plan you knew how to make, and then you went for it. All of that deserves congratulations. Failure is feedback. Failure showed up and said, okay, good try, but you forgot to think about this, or you didn't know that you needed to account for that, or there's a little bit more information required, or you did well, but your execution can be improved. That's all that's happening with failure.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs that consider themselves visionaries. I've been tagged that myself over my career, but translating the vision into action is one of the hardest steps for many entrepreneurs. You are a visionary. You can see the blank canvas and you know what you're going to do there. What advice would you have for those that are in that place of, I see the vision, but I can't articulate it?
I can see the vision, but I can't articulate it?
Yeah. Tell other
Wow,
people.
okay.
Bring them into the vision.
Find the language. I mean, I tell people that I'm an artist because I can't do math. Search for the language. Here's one of the funny things about artists. I like to think is that we're groping at the edges of conceptual reality. We're feeling around in the dark, and we perceive things out there at the fringes of what people understand. A lot like Aaron, it's like being blind, and you're feeling, you're perceiving, and you go, oh, okay, there's that thing. Oh, there's this other thing over here, and they seem to connect, and I'm starting to understand something, but there's no vocabulary for it.
Yes.
And so we sing, we dance, we make pictures. We're doing it's like dream language. We're doing the best we can to articulate something for which there is no language.
Yes.
Find your language. Search for how to articulate the value of what you do. If you lay awake at night dreaming of doing that thing, if it thrills you to want to do that thing, there will be people in the world who will be thrilled to have it for the same reasons you are inspired to do it. So what you're looking for is the vocabulary of your tribe, of that group of people.
Cameron, that's a home run right there. Thank you very much. Was doing this book, being a part of this, fun for you?
Sure, because it pushed you. It pushed me, and I think everybody got pushed by it. We all wear masks, right?
Yeah.
And especially as entrepreneurs, especially as professionals, there's the person and there's the persona. And so most of us started out in teacher mode. It's like, here's the lessons I've learned as an entrepreneur. Now go do that. And Kira and Lee kept pushing us like, no, that's not what we're doing here. That's not what this is. Tell your authentic story. And that's really frightening.
Yes.
It's like, what if people know these things about me? And it was like, yeah, that's the point. Because what we want them to know, this is why I really got invested in that part of it.
Yeah.
If me sharing something that may feel embarrassing to me shows someone else who's on the verge of success, whose life could be changed in an instant, that they're not alone, their experience is unique to them, but it's not thoroughly unique.
Yeah.
And if they read and go, oh, wow, it's them too.
Yeah.
And they're where they are, maybe I can make it too. That's why I did this. That's what I really want. That's why I went all in with the emotional revelations and things that I haven't even told family members.
Well, Cameron, thanks for taking the time to do it. Thanks for putting it all in there. It's a great read. Yeah. Congratulations on your book launch tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Back to Ireland we go now, and Anna is going to jump in and join us. And how you doing this afternoon, this evening? What time is it there in Ireland?
I'm good. It's 10:20. Apologies, my internet probably not the greatest, but yeah, it's 10:10. I'm
well,
delighted
we're going to get right
here.
into it here. You are an EMCC accredited executive coach, faculty member of Kingstonstown College. And your thing is decide, commit, succeed. That's what you're all about, right?
That's it. Yeah. Even so, I am honored and privileged to be in Kingston College as a faculty member. But decide, commit, succeed came from my own experiences and I guess my career in strategy and operations. But I have many hats. Many hats.
Well, your chapter is one I really love. It's the passion-driven entrepreneur. I love passion. I love entrepreneurs that ooze out their dreams. Tell us about why you wrote this chapter.
It's my internet, I think. Oh. Your question. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. I'm able to hear you. Tell us about why you wrote this chapter.
I really can't hear you so bad. Hear me because I can't understand anything. Sorry.
I can hear you.
Technology for you.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Tell us about
I couldn't understand your question, Rich. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's try it again. Tell us about your chapter.
My chapter. It was very challenging, Rich, to say the least, right? And I never thought that would be, because I love challenges and I embrace them and go forward with it. But as somebody who loves storytelling, especially storytelling through family albums, it's something that we do in my family. And my chapter is an honor to my grandparents and my parents.
Hang on, everybody. We're going to see if she comes back. She's frozen in mid-sentence right now. Seems like Ireland's been our one sticky spot. Beautiful country, great people, lovely. But it seems like the technical bugs have been popping up in Ireland. So what I'm going to do right now is beam her off stage, and we will continue on here. And we are going to go back. And coming up next is going to be, back to Canada we go. Dr. Anna Lee is going to be joining us. Anna Lee, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you. So thank you so much for what you're doing. An amazing work you do, just reading everything and highlighting everyone. Wow. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you. And again, you're the president and CEO of the International Metaphysical Academy. You're helping people find contentment, inner freedom, inner freedom and the enjoyment of life. How fulfilling is that for you to do that work?
I actually was wondering what kind of questions you would ask me, being a pastor yourself and having been in the metaphysical field or spiritual field for many, many years. I actually just wrote this based on the most frequent feedback that I got from people. So obviously we learn a lot, we change as we're doing the academy and learn more about spirituality and what this life is all about, what this universe is all about, and why we're here in the first place and why everything is so nutty and crazy and how to deal with it. It is something that I was called to do, I agreed to do, and I know that sounds a little goofy maybe for some people, but I was agreeing to do this kind of work and establishing the academy before I came here, before I was born. And I just recently learned that I have fulfilled this agreement or task or contract. And the information and the knowledge that has been shared through and is shared through the academy will be even more looked at and wanted after my physical disappearance.
Well, your old chapter is called Spiritual Leaders, and you admit that you ask spiritual questions early as a child. You asked them in your midlife and everything. You've been seeking and asking and knocking on the door of God saying, tell me more, haven't you?
Yes, and I'm still doing it. I'm still asking lots of questions and drove my mom nuts when I was doing that, even as a little child, already even in kindergarten. But I think that's important for us to ask questions and not just live our life without thinking, without observation, and without establishing some goals for us regarding our real purpose here. And many live their purpose through their business. And one of the things which I noticed with our group, or really all of the people in the ECI group, and maybe for listeners who don't know what that is, it's called for Entrepreneurs Community International. And it's a global group that was started by Lee Tanaware, as many know. And one of the things I noticed is that so many of these people and of us are including in their mission statements, in their work, what they want to do in their life as a contribution. So many people use now spiritual terms like things that are relating to mindfulness, to caring, to love, to authenticity, to giving, to sharing, to supporting. Now, these are all spiritual concepts, and there is this huge awakening happening worldwide. Just yesterday, I talked with one of the ECI members, a very successful business person, and she said, you know, a year ago, I would have never wanted to meet with you because I don't know what the heck you're about and what you do, because she's very much into left brain business enterprise. But then she said about a year ago, I had some very life disturbing incidences in my life. And I started to ask questions, and I thought maybe I should reach out to Annelie. Maybe she's helping me to make some sense of this. So this is something that's happening everywhere. People are pausing and recognizing there's way more to this life than what we see. And you know, I have the privilege as a therapist and coach and facilitator to share with people what I know and assist them in their journey. And I don't know anything that is more so fulfilling for myself and vital for our survival.
Well, and I love when you put in your chapter, because the business world, the business and spiritual for a long time was kept separate. Mm-hmm. And there is a hunger. It seems like people are coming back together to blend them back together. But you put in there, you talked about the unanswered prayers. You would pray and seek guidance. It was silence. And it was also, your mother wasn't exactly the best coach and encourager in your younger life. So you had unanswered prayers. You had silence from God and a negative mother. But you continued to seek and look for it. What did that do for you? How did that help you as an entrepreneur, as a global leader? How did that framing of negativity and silence help you move on?
Well, we need to recognize that evil does exist. And there are many people who say, oh, I just live in love and light and everything is just fine and there's nothing else. And looking back at my life, I had such a privileged life, and all the pains and the disappointments and the harassment and misrepresentation and you name it.
You had it.
I had them all. They were all part of my learning. And looking back, my God, they were part of my strengths today and my resilience. And so one of the things we learn is that the kind of challenges we have, I look at everyone in this group, particularly, for example, Aaron, or when anyone hears Lee's story, and I know a little bit about you and the enormous health issues you went through and survived. There is something about that is so transformational if we want it. It's a choice that we have to either fall into victimhood or to say, what is going on? What is more about this? What is it that I can learn here? What is this strange thing about this life here? And where am I heading? And there is this part of us that many refer to as a soul memory or soul yearning. And that often helps us, or is a start at least, to go deeper into who we are and our very existence. And I'm just very happy that I am who I am or have become.
So really quickly before I let you go, I know you write prolifically. But this is a different writing. This is a bit different book.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to dive into your own story and put it out there for other people in this particular format?
Well, to tell you the truth, and obviously I tell you the truth, it wasn't difficult. I'm a therapist. I have done my review of my life 1,000 times. But what did work for me is that I realized that I didn't have a boring life. I always thought I did. And I just realized, my God, the level of the depth and the experiences and the travel and the people, my connections all over the world, they're phenomenal. I didn't know. And I also realized my strengths. I didn't really realize and have the level of ownership of who I am today before I wrote this chapter in my book. So it really has strengthened me in a way that I feel more on my own authority. And that's a great gift. And I want to thank Lee for starting this crazy journey.
Annalie, it's always a pleasure to see you. Great. Congratulations on another book being published, more writing out there for you. Thanks again for being with us here tonight.
Thanks.
So I see we got Anna back. We're going to take a brief jump off the planned agenda for a moment here. We're going to see if Anna can get back in. And can you hear me any better, Anna?
I can hear you better now, but I am kind of nervous that it's going to go off again. But let's go for it. Let's go for it.
All right, let's get into this real quickly here for you once again. You talk about the power of finding joy in the little things and the little jobs of life as a kid. Can you tell us some of that joy as a kid?
Power of Rich? Power of?
The power of joy as a child.
Power of joy. Yeah. I am very lucky. Yes, I can say that I was exposed to many different things, and maybe because of that I love diversity so much, and that reflected through all my work, through all my career. And since, say, very early age, I spent quite a bit of time with my grandparents, and everything was about learn well, practice, and then share. As an eldest child in the family, an eldest child among all grandchildren, that was my role. That was my place, I guess, to teach the rest. So it was an interesting one. I learned a lot. And through my life and my career, without even going for it or looking for it, I was put in those positions. So opportunities came available for me to be in those positions where I actually could learn. And we say, learn from somebody who is in front and pass it to somebody who is following you. And that's what my grandparents taught me. And I am delighted that this opportunity with the book came, that I actually could put their legacy through this story and be part of this amazing project.
Now, you also love photography and storytelling. Why is that important in your life?
Again, photography comes back from my grandfather and my uncle. Family photo albums, it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And even now, Christmas comes, birthdays comes, we take all our photo albums and we tell stories as far as we can go. I know stories about my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and that's what I pass to my children. And hopefully one day they will do the same. So storytelling is so important that a lot of people ask me, and my life is very colorful, right, Rich? We probably stop there, right? But a lot of people ask me, will I write a book? Or I should write a book? Or maybe I have a couple of books already that I can write. Always wanted to, but when this opportunity came, I said, yeah, I absolutely anticipated the challenge. It wasn't the storytelling through photo albums, definitely wasn't. But one thing I'd say, and I'm going to come back to the community and how important that was. Firstly, meeting Lee Tuniware from his Codebreaker. That's where my journey started. And that led me to a very dynamic ECI community. And from that on, this project come along. So it was no brainer. I had to be in, right? But when we actually wrote the story, my first copy was crap. I have to say, it wasn't good at all. And I was more nervous. And then when it came back, I had to ask actually my kids, back to storytelling and family, right? I had to ask my kids and my daughter. Without her, this wouldn't have happened. And she's very much into books and writing. So I asked her help, as I got help from every member of this community. Without that support, nothing would have happened, and I would kept all my stories to myself. So delighted that we're through with it. I can't wait to get the copy, right? But yeah, it's a legacy of my grandparents that I will pass on to my kids and next generations to come.
You also talk in your chapter about the power of coaching in your life. There were two of you in the book that wrote about this. Why was coaching so important to you?
Coaching is something that probably we all do, right? But in a sense that coaching helped me during COVID or after COVID, things have changed. Yeah. Things have changed in the whole world, in everybody's life. And most of us were very, very busy. We didn't have time to reflect, to think about something new. But now we had actually time. And would you believe I started gardening? I started doing all sorts of things that I always thought I don't have time for. But then, as you can read the chapter, studying in a sense of lifelong learning about everything.
And again, there's so much to get out of your chapter. I'm glad we finally got the internet
all
fixed.
The challenging part
so
of my life.
Thanks for being with us here today. We're going to move on, but thank you, and great success in everything you continue to do. We're going to jump now on further down to our list now. Again, we've had 22 different authors we got to get through here tonight, but it's a blast. It's so much fun. And I think I see my dear friend, Peter Anling, in the back room there. And Peter, come on in. You should be beaming in now. There you are, Peter. How are you?
Hi, Rich. I'm excellent. Thank you. How are you?
Are you enjoying all this globe trotting around the world with us today?
Yeah, it's sort of reminiscing of the days when I did a lot more of it, but yes, indeed.
So you are in Canada. You're the founder and the CEO of LOS Global. Your firm helps companies to overcome whatever may be holding them back from working better as a team. You're all about team, aren't you?
Absolutely. And the more we are about team, the more successful we become.
So when you got involved with this book, and you've known some of the other characters and writers of this for a long time, what did it mean for you to particularly write this book now and with these people?
I think the biggest thing for me was, one, having the support to write something, to write a book as opposed to doing it on my own. The other thing was that coming to a juncture in life where you stop and reflect, I've arrived at this point in life, and reflecting back, everything that I've been through, everything that I've done is actually what's brought me to this point. And we're not looking at it from a negative point of view. We're looking at all the things that we've actually accomplished, that we've overcome, the challenges, whatever it is, because that's what's shaped us to become who we are.
So there are no thread of entrepreneur spirit in either me or my family lines. So how did you get here?
Yeah, I'm asking myself that question. That's a good question. I mean, I think there was a drive in me that maybe wasn't in anybody else in the family, that at least that I found and in my family's lines. I wanted something more than just running that run of the mill, get a job kind of thing. There was something for me, freedom and being able to make an impact in the world spoke to a much greater desire to do something that was different. I think that's what drove it.
Now, you talk about being bullied. Several of the other authors talked about this as well, being labeled different. And you said also then it made great material for entrepreneur training. So I love the tongue in cheek that you did with your writing. So take us there, because many of the others spoke of the same thing.
Tongue in cheek. The one story, and I'll just, without giving too much of it away, is when you're told that, you're not going to be successful because you can't speak, let alone write English. Well, I mean, I let people decide that for themselves, but there's the tongue in cheek. Do you really need to be able to read and write English to be able to be a successful entrepreneur, to be able to be successful at anything you do? I think the answer is kind of like no at the end of the day. But it's something that developed over time. I mean, I learned, I read, and I spoke to people. You pick up, you learn things as you go. So, I mean, those who think my English is great and all of that, I applaud you. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for that. English isn't my first language, but we won't, I'll let you figure that one out.
Now, you also, the next adventure, finding a job in South Africa, was part of your journey in life. In the 1990s, a young man, you're a white man, you make it very clear in the book, white guy, no easy mission, going to Africa. What was that like to be trying to find your path, find a career, but be in a foreign land?
Well, let me just correct something slightly there. It wasn't a foreign land. I was born in South Africa.
Oh, that's right.
So I grew up in it. But it was at the time that I was looking for a job. I'd given a lot of my dreams that I'd had when I was a bit younger sort of had been pushed aside. And it was, well, I have to go and get a job. I mean, that's what everybody did. You finish your university degree, go and get a job. You got to make some money. And that, I guess, was the challenge, trying to fit in and really learn. But it was about persistence too. You learn you have to keep going. Otherwise, what are you going to do? And the persistence eventually did pay off after several months of looking for work. Yeah.
Now, go back to the beginning. You're all about team. And everyone's talked about this amazing team of authors and writers and influencers.
Yes.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned from the others in this group?
Ooh, the biggest thing, I think.
I'm bringing you the hard question because I know you.
I think the biggest thing that I not only learned, but actually validated for me is to get through what we did, you had to lead ourselves first. And I had to lead myself first. I had to, okay, well, what am I writing here? Anna mentioned her first draft of the chapter was, well, let's not even go there because mine wasn't viable. Let's leave it at that one. But how do you lead yourself first? Yes, you got the encouragement, but you still got to do this work. So then we bring the team element into it. Okay, well, my book buddy was Paula, and she mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And we would just chat and go backwards and forwards and say, well, there's this part here. Yeah, but there's that part of my life. And how am I going to do that? And that team aspect of having somebody there, because we then interacted with some of the other authors in various groups to try and flush out what we were doing.
Yeah.
So when you try and do something on your own, it kind of been daunting. I mean, yes, there's people who write books on their own, and great, and I'm not knocking that. But I'm not a writer. I mean, I told you earlier on my English was, well, anything but. Anyway, so I'm not a writer. When you've got a team of people that are there, that have got your back, that are rooting for you, that want to be supportive, that give you feedback, get ideas, we throw things around, we share ideas. Oh, yeah, that's great. I can use that. Oh, yeah, actually, that's a good point. I could write about that. I could add that to the, how do I develop my own story? And when you can do that as a team, as a collective, well, I mean, I think the book speaks for itself.
You know, we've heard different stories of entrepreneurial journeys, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad. And I haven't asked this question yet of anyway, but is it fun to be an entrepreneur, setting your own course, doing it your way? Or is that one of those things that also is a pain in the backside?
Well, let's go to Frank Sinatra for a moment, shall we?
I did it my way, baby.
There you go. I mean, is it for everybody? No, I don't think it is. I mean, I was driven. I wanted to achieve things. I mean, I've done so many different things in my life. I wanted to do them. So entrepreneurship, well, having nobody in my family who was an entrepreneur wasn't the issue. I, believe it or not, I only realized that when I started writing this chapter, and I looked through it and I went, oh, okay, well, I'm plotting my own course. When you look at, one of my childhood ambitions was to be a pilot.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to fly. I mean, well, what does flying mean? I mean, the reality is flying, there's a sense of freedom. I remember back when in my mid-teens, I was flying a glider. I was in a glider, and there is something very unique when you're in a glider. That freedom, that just as you're gliding through the air, there's no engine, you don't hear this droning of the engines, and you're like a bird. You're free as a bird. So, hey, that, I don't know, that just fueled me, and I've been flying. I mean, flying for me is fun. I enjoy it. Doesn't matter which way I can fly, I'll get there. But that, I think, is one of the biggest drivers for me to be an entrepreneur, is that freedom to be able to decide what impact I want to make in the world because of my own journey.
Peter Hanley from Canada. He's always got something to say. It's great to see you again. And look, you even dressed up for us tonight. Thank you very much, my friend.
Well, hey, you know, many people don't get to see that one, yes, but thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
Congratulations on the book, and keep having fun with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
We continue on in our journey here tonight as we are celebrating the launch of this amazing book. We're going to stay in Canada right now, and we are going to go bring in Sandy Hart. And Sandy does not know this, but I just watched you and Aaron O'Dowd, and we launched your podcast episode today.
Absolutely, we did. What an incredible day I am having over here in the fall and the leaves coming down. What the harvest. Yes.
So you are a sales synergist. We love you take the sleaze out of sales one person at a time. I love your hashtag on that. What does that really mean in practical terms?
Well, I grew up in a very law-abiding home where my mom was court administrator and justice of the peace. She literally signed search warrants and released prisoners. And my father was the senior game warden and special constable to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Wow.
And sales, especially real estate people, were second only to lawyers as far as my father was concerned. And my dad, yeah, he's my hero. My mom also was my hero. So it was tough. It was tough to go into sales when you grew up in a world where, oh, it was not good, Rich.
Well, okay, Sandy, you launched your chapter with a deeply profound question that I wanted to just throw on the table. It's great, but it also impacted you personally for a very long time. The question was, who are you and do you know?
Yes.
Wow, you just started right there with the chapter.
Yeah.
What does that really mean to you when you ponder those? And you said, I've continued to ponder. They don't go away. Those questions are with you, aren't they?
Yes, it's sort of a daily dance in the mirror with the devil. Who are you? Do you know? Because we're so inundated with outside energies that I think we struggle to stand in our authenticity and our autonomy of who are you and how are you showing up as you? How are you impacting the world and how are you making the world a better place today versus the day doing you and just getting through it. And I think sadly a lot of people get through the day rather than rock the day. Yeah.
You also wrote in your chapter, you wrote of discipline and then hard knocks learning from your family. Today, that is often frowned upon, the way there was a strong disciplinary family. And I love the way you wrote about it very clearly, but yet it helped shape you. What would you say to people listening to that today? Because it was an authoritative led family, right?
Very. Yes, it was. You lie, you die was the mantra in my house. And my parents were also very loving. So they had an equilibrium of love and discipline. But because I had listened to a lot of outside voices, I questioned myself whether it was discipline, and yeah. But to grow up with an integrity so ingrained and to be able to answer the question, who are you? Do you know? And writing this chapter, Rich, actually brought clarity beyond anything that I had before writing. And the tears in the recognition of those values. And to me, as a sales synergist,
yes,
your values really do create your value in the marketplace.
So in today's world, the discipline that you and I grew up, the discipline that you just described in your book, it's completely frowned upon. And yet both those, I think, would say, I didn't like it at the time, but it saved me a lot of other pain in life later on. Yeah. Do you think that's a lesson we should be talking about? We should be discussing some of that?
I definitely think we should be discussing it because I think the pendulum went a little far on the other side.
Yeah.
And so having that discipline, and I mean, I know in some ways I dropped the ball with my 3 sons in overcompensating and doing too much for them because of how much I did as a child. And then later on, they're like, what do you mean we have to do it? And I was like, uh-oh. And now watching my oldest son parent and they've brought it back to that. And it's sort of that generational, part of, skips a generation that comes back and watching it all. It's fascinating.
You did write about, again, these go back to some of your upbringing, but they also definitely lay into the business side of entrepreneurship, integrity, service, excellence. You learned those the hard ways, but you said those are the values that now drive me.
They are absolutely. And I now know why those are my 3 core values. And I know exactly where I get them. And I'm more grateful than I've ever been. And I've always been grateful to my parents. I have fantastic parents. They're very, they were pillars and incredible humans. But now I really recognize all of the harshness and all of the pushing me to be more and to do more and to take on more. And I really, it's amazing.
I love how you put this part of the book. Sales and honor don't always go together.
Right.
But you found a way to blend. You've taken those attributes that we just talked about and you brought it into sales. What's your secret sauce? How have you managed to do the icky, but do it well?
Oh, I absolutely love sales. And I especially love being in a room where sales has a terrible reputation. It's absolutely true. Real estate, especially. And I'm blessed 29 years in active real estate, But I also I do a lot outside of real estate, and sales with integrity is about the other person. It's about synergy. It's about if what I have makes your life exponentially better and we come together, then that is synergy. That is where the sum of two is greater than that of its parts and becomes something to make the world a better place. And so I really describe sales as the bridge between where your ideal client is and their promised land. And rather than be the troll under the bridge who's fee fi fo fum, how dare you, you are the guide, and you are also the person who built the bridge, and therefore you are the value of the journey to the promised land. And to take the you out of it and recognize your journey is the value that you are bringing, there is no ick whatsoever. It is, you want to invest in your future, I have a solution for you, and it's win-win or walk away is my absolute mantra.
Signy Hart, it's a great chapter, and it is very personal, very real, but well done. And thank you for taking the time to join the book launch party here today. Hopefully it's been fun for you the whole time to hang out.
It's been incredible. Oh my gosh. What, 22, and it's an 11/11. So I'm like on the spiritual side of things. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Great. Thanks for being with us today. Thank you. All right, we are coming down. We are moving fast. You can't believe how fast this is all going along. We're going to go back to the big state of Texas now, and Daniel Hammond is going to beam in and join us. Daniel, great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you? Just really enjoying hearing all of my partners' stories and all of the wisdom they've been sharing.
Now, again, the assignment was write it. You wrote a lot of it alone, but you did have some partner collaboration. What's been your biggest takeaway so far that you've learned from your colleagues?
Yeah, so this is definitely my most interactive book, and having those other people deeply involved in the creation process really, I think, created a deeper work. Certainly, I had to dig deeper into my past, and I shared things that I haven't shared in other books, and so that's always exciting. And I didn't have enough words, so I'm going to have to keep writing.
So you work with entrepreneurs to experience exponential growth by eliminating problems so their business can thrive and grow. How do you really do that? Because we all have problems. We're always going to keep having problems, but how do you do that?
I'm an interrogator on retainer. I was an Army.
I think it's a great line, especially after reading your chapter.
Thanks. I find that there's a lot of people that don't ask the deep personal questions that make people potentially uncomfortable, but also lead to really deep growth. And so that's a service that I try to provide. I try to go deeper. I don't just ask, what is the problem that's obstructing your business, but I also ask, what is it preventing you from doing, right? It's about finding what do they want to have the outcome look like when they're done with it. And so having that opportunity to dig deeper using kind of, for my chapter, that inquisitive nature, but also that caring and compassion I got from my dad to really serve them to the best of my abilities.
You did a really great job about the entrepreneurial journey of your own personal life, but there was this line in here that says, I believe that this is important because if you only know your job is all you will ever do. I don't hear people talking about that from a business standpoint. Tell us more.
Yeah, I really believe in the interconnectedness of things. I'm like my dear friend Anna Lee. I'm very spiritual, and I see people created with purpose, and I don't want them to just go and do a thing. I want them to dig deeper, find that purpose, but sometimes you got to do things to pay the bills. And while you're there, why not learn as much as you can? And to do that, you need to learn, well, how does the role that I do serve the other people around me? What is the best outcome that we can achieve together? And what is my contribution to that? What does my boss need to be successful, so that I can start lining up that as well, to be a better employee. And that's really, I want to keep learning and expanding wherever I go. And often it leads to me being like the one person on the team that can answer the questions like, who does this in this organization? I'm like, oh yeah, I know who that person is. And so that's fun. And I love solving problems. And so that also helps me connect where I can add the most value.
So the chat box has been blowing up about your interrogations. I have to share part of that from your chapter, which is very interesting. You have done professional interrogation. You know about interrogation skills. You also said that I interrogate my world. How does interrogation skills help an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, one, I would say, all credit to my first writing partner, Dr. Ted Anders. The first thing that got me into writing was coming across my partner system called customer-driven leadership. And it's really about asking your customers, what's the one thing that I can do for you that if I successfully achieve this, you would never look for anybody else that does what I do, right? How can I be such a critical and valued part of your success that you're the only person I ever want to work with in this space? And you have to also maintain, just like in an interrogation, open rapport and constantly assessing, have their priorities changed? And so you can't just ask once, you need to be checking in and seeing, is this still the thing you care the most about? And then that works with your employees as you build a company. You want to know, what are their aspirations? How can you feed them the things that matter to them? And then I really like creating collaborative environments where teams are serving teams and being rewarded for serving them well.
So there's also this part of the book that you got into. You poke at a really good tension point. Again, that few ever really bring up. You said you challenge the status quo, but the tension of being asked questions versus them really wanting to know the real answer. We do that, don't we? We ask questions, but we don't really want to hear the truth.
Yeah. Sometimes I say, I'm the person that will tell you your baby is ugly if hearing your baby is ugly is what you need to hear, right? And I don't run around just going, hey, that's an ugly baby. That's an ugly baby. But, some people, and let me change that. Let me make it personal, right?
Yeah.
I built my company to scale in a way that I knew it would be successful, but I wasn't able to achieve some of the things I needed to fuel that engine of success.
Gotcha.
And so I needed somebody to come in and kick me around gently, of course, but we don't torture an interrogation. It's all compliance stuff.
No waterboarding here.
That's right. Yeah, actually, some of the people I interrogated cried when I left. I mean, it's about building deep relationships. Yeah. And so, that's part of it is how can I serve the world better and bigger? And, my goal is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs make the world a better place. And sort of what some of our team members have touched upon, right? As I dug deeper into how I can best serve, I focus and multiply the genius of others. I'm not the idea guy that runs around with 1,000 great ideas a day. I'm the one that can go, hey, those 1,000 ideas, 997 of them were garbage. These 3 are gems. Let's work those.
So you also, the power of learning to scope and scale. Every entrepreneur talks about it, has read dozens of books on it, but it rarely ever really happens. What's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, I think it's definitely being connected to what everyone sees success. What is everyone's perception of success for a project? One of the things that I'm really excited about is I'm in part of an entrepreneurial growth community, besides the amazing ECI, and it's really about seeing, just because I come with you and you and I have a project together, what matters to me for the project to be successful might be completely different than you, right? And so maybe I want to just grow my brand and for more people to know that I'm out there. Maybe you want to actually make some money off the deal.
Yeah, please.
Right. And so you've got to assess that. And I think there's some fantastic tools to do that. But I'm really good at managing other people's, what matters to other people, and helping to find what's the solution that's going to give you what you want, me what I want, and our three partners what they want. And that's a fun place to be. So I love the more complexity, the better, because I sort it really fast. And that's part of my entrepreneurial genius, I guess.
For you being a part of this global community, I mean, you're in Texas. There's so much in Texas going on. There's so many businesses up and down, growing. Everything's bigger in Texas. But we've had people from Malta. We have Ireland. We have Canada. We bounce around so many different places today. What does that mean to you that the global community is right here with you so much like this?
That is a fantastic question. And as a guy who created interrogation courses for the military, I love that question, because here's what the world becoming more global lets you look for special communities. And that's for me. Everything that's done well is done at a community level. And that's what I have with these partners and with ECI. I shopped around so many networking groups, but when I found this one, it's like, hey, I want to be in Ireland twice a month. Right. That's where the great people are. And so I love this community. I love the people that are in it. There's not a single one of them that wouldn't drop what they were doing to help you have a better life. And that's rare. And you should look for that everywhere. You should join ECI as well, but you should also look for that in communities. Is this a good fit for me? And is it going to grow me in the right way? And is it going to surround me with the kind of people who will celebrate when I win?
Daniel Hammond from Texas, thank you very much. It's been great. Congratulations. A great part of the book. And it's wonderful. All blends together so well. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Winding down our time here, we got one more guy to go, and it's going to be fun to bring Dan Goodwin in here because he's been sitting backstage. I've seen him backstage for a while, and I know he listens to everything out there. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you doing?
Oh, this has been a blast. This has been absolutely a blast to hear the stories, read the stories, hear from the people. You come into this now wrapping everything up here, but you also are a guy that, you're from Kansas. You're the founder of the CYA Consulting. You advise business owners, entrepreneurs in crisis response issues that helps them change people's reality. Entrepreneurs don't have anything called crisis in their life, Dan, do they?
No. You asked a while ago, what do you love and what do you hate? You asked Peter that, right?
Yeah.
And it's that answer was yes and yes. It's the lows. And, people say that, especially in Kansas, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. If you don't like being an entrepreneur, wait 5 minutes. You'll be on the ultra high or the ultra low. It happens all within a matter of seconds sometimes.
Now, your chapter is interestingly called The Lessons from a Seventh Grade Entrepreneur. You started early, man.
Yeah, and actually the first working title was Lessons Learned as a 7th Grade Drug Dealer, and then I struck that out and I put Entrepreneur. So
I did see the strike. I knew that was in there. So tell us about you know, one of the quotes was, "I was ADHD before it was cool." So you've had your own challenges, right?
Yeah, or diagnosable. You know,
Yeah.
they just you talked a little bit I think you alluded to it with Sandy, but about corporal punishment, and
Yeah.
I graduated from corporal to what's the next rank up? it was the next,
Major. I don't know.
it was something.
So that was part of your upbringing. How did that define you? How did that impact you? Did that limit you? Did that challenge you to keep going? What did that do?
It was wow. It was imposed order.
Yep.
It was I was always an active child, right? Always creating chaos and turmoil. And always wanted to have fun. I was like my mom in that way. You know, if people are around, it's time to party. No matter what else is going on, right?
You talk about personal development in this chapter, and you said, "I know when a person focuses on personal development, it has an impact on their professional life." Now, I've known you for a while. I know you're always consuming. Why is this so important?
Wow. So the journey of personal development can almost always, not always, but almost always certainly make your life better, especially as you grow up and you're starting to get into business or open a business or be an employee. The personal development journey for me is one of consuming, of reading a lot. And then when I got into the corporate life, we had some opportunities. And I was very early in my life, in my my early 20s, right when the 7 Habits book came out by Stephen Covey.
Yeah, fabulous.
And all of a sudden something clicked. At least in my corporate experience, something clicked to say, this is the structure that I wish or I should have had, in the mid-teens to kind of help me wrap my head around what do I want to do when I grow up. And Sandy mentioned a while ago, who are you today, right? So it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I ask myself in the mirror every day, what do you want to be today, Dan, when you grow up? And I haven't quite figured out that question yet, the answer.
So again, in working with people, you know how important it is to identify values. Several other authors, writers have talked about it throughout the book, but you got to put a pin into it. The power of values is your compass to help you keep going.
Yeah. So the 3 things I work through with my consulting clients is values, vision, and velocity. And the values piece, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, they want to focus on the vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we always revisit the values, and true personal values especially won't probably change that much until you work through the personal development things. And then there may be some changes. The driver there is those values undergird the vision. And typically when like 2 partners, if they have a disagreement, it's most of the time it goes to an underlying value. And then the 3rd V is velocity. And that's simply how fast do you want to get there? What are the resources? All of those types of things.
Now, again, I just love your chapter. There's so much in it, but you also go back to the adversity stuff. But you also talk about adversity comes with opportunity. But the question you asked, and I think it's great, what are you going to do about it?
Right. So when you identify this as an adversity, that is, as our good friend Lee Tunney-Ware would say, that's probably based or focused on some past event.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you cut that and you go to the present. Yes. And then from the present, you work towards, what do I want this to look like in the future? So what am I going to do in this moment to actually solve this. And when I have clients come to me sometimes, I will sometimes ask that clarifying question: are you wanting support, empathy, or a solution? Because that will actually help me help them, because I'm a good listener. I can listen, and I have this ability to really see down in the future, two or three places down in the future that could help them, only if they're willing to put the action into it.
Okay, that's the sticky point. Why don't we ask the question that you asked here? Why don't we ask the big question, what am I going to do about it? And then go to action with it. We'll ask the question, but often we just sit and wait for it magically to disappear.
Well, you probably know some like this in your life, that they're not happy unless they're complaining, because they receive negative affirmation. That's it's a new term, negative affirmation.
Yeah,
right?
new term.
That triggers the adrenaline and the cortisol dumps, and they receive attention. So if that's the only way you know how to receive attention or perceived affection, because you're sharing a trauma, we have a shared trauma, then you're stuck there. There's no way to move forward if you're always pulling back to the past event.
As an entrepreneur yourself, the world is rapidly changing. AI and so much is going on right now. We have this global expansion. We're more connected than ever before. What do you see as some of the challenges of entrepreneurship for those that are wanting to jump in and join us?
Wow, ask great questions. Use your critical thinking skills. That's really where my interrogation investigative training comes in, is to challenge people to not accept any programming that are thrust upon them by friends, family, mainstream media, church, social groups, whatever you allow into your life, that you still have enough self-awareness that you will absolutely question everything.
Question everything. And when the hard knocks, as the book is called, when the hard knocks come, what's your answer to that, Dan?
Take a step back. What I do now, this is present day Dan, not young, immature Dan. So instead of looking for others to blame, say, how did I get here? We all have adversity. We all have situations thrown at us that we are not responsible for. The only thing we're responsible for is how do we handle that? We learn, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And I'm at this point in my life, I don't need any more lessons. I just want to move forward. But I also have to take accountability. What have I done or not done that has created the current issue at hand?
And then, Dan, I'm going to ask you your favorite question. You pose it to everybody else I've ever seen you talk to. What's your superpower?
My superpower is to be able to look people in the eye, down into their soul. People want to be seen, heard, and validated. And I've said in enough investigative interviews that when people had to meet with me at that level of an investigation, if they're the subject or a witness, this may be their first opportunity to tell their side of the story without judgment, no matter how bad the situation was. And I am there to validate them as a human being, to listen to their story, and to validate not the act that happened, but to validate and say, I understand. I'm not sure that I wouldn't have done anything different if I was where you were, if these seats were switched.
Dan Goodwin, we're winding down the book party, the celebration of an amazing compilation. Have you had fun today?
I've had a blast. I mean, I'm looking at this going, I was just looking at all the speakers because I was checking them off as you went down, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that Cameron John Robbins was at 7 years old in the Sistine Chapel. I
How
didn't
cool
know
is that, right?
Ainley was flying in a glider when he was a teenager. I mean, I've learned so much, and these are people that I've known for quite a while now, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we probably need to get back together and have that one-on-one conversation that we've been putting off. So I've had a blast today, and I so appreciate the community and what Lee and Kira have put together. And yes, you know, I just knew my first draft was just going to be, yep, okay, you're done. Don't worry about it. So it wasn't that way. I can promise you.
Thank you, Dan Goodwin. It's been a pleasure as we wind this thing down. Now, I'm going to surprise somebody here real quickly because I see Kira is backstage. Now, she was the editor of this. You were the one, Kira, that worked the herd all the cats, as we heard earlier. Real quickly, here we are. See? You've been listening and watching even with the lights out. Here it is. We're at the finish line of the book launch party. What do you think?
Such an experience. Just imagine putting 22 strangers together over a 10-month period and telling them that they're going to write a book that's going to be published. They're not going to read each other's chapters and just go for it. What could go wrong, right?
Well, congratulations to you and Lee for putting the challenge out to your community to collaborate together and do this marathon thing. Again, it's transparency, it's personal, it's real. You did a great job of coaching them along to inspire them to do it. So congratulations.
They were amazing. To see the depth of all of their stories has been fantastic, and I can't wait for everybody to read the book.
That's Kira. She was the one that got this whole thing going with Lee Tunnyware, and the comments and the chimes are still coming out. And I do want to share the book leaks since we're on American time right now. We were trying to do this and roll things out. Hit the QR code. You want to get this book. It was released today. This is the first time it's public. I didn't get my full final virgin copy till several hours before book launch time. And so skimming, reading, highlighting, it was a blast to go through that. You want to order the book and learn more about ECI. By the way, we do want to thank them. ECI has redefined the entrepreneur's journey as a first of its kind global entrepreneur community that brings together entrepreneurs locally, nationally, and internationally, as you've seen here tonight, for collective success. They're sharing the wisdom and insights. They're upscaling one another and offering support and referrals among authentic, committed business professionals. And this is the transformative network. They're all being transformed as they work with everybody else. And they're showcasing the true power of collaboration. You've seen here today, as you've heard all this through, they're reshaping the future of entrepreneurs for success, the hard work, and the success of this book will only amplify it more and more. My name is Rich Bontrager. It's been an honor to be able to MC and host this and be a part of this community and come along for part of the ride here. And again, 22 different authors, different countries around the world. Congratulations. The book is launched. Now go read it and learn and grow. Have a great night, everybody.